What up, nerds, and welcome to another triple dose of straight chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 340, recorded on Monday, October 11th, 2021. Tonight, we're going to be talking about not one, not two, but three movies, because it's our Halloween extravaganza. We're talking Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Halloween H2O. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Purely and simply evil.
How do? It's Randu. How you do? I don't know. I'm trying to keep that rhyme going by doing the same first rhyme. How's it going?
I love the Loomis bump. Thank you for preparing that. It is perfect.
Oh, yeah. I was very, very far in advance prepared about 5 minutes ago.
I also love your shining carpet cardigan. It's looking
nice. You know it, man. Thank you, man. I love this cardigan, but it's perhaps the least versatile item of clothing I own. It's only appropriate to wear at certain times, and it's also the heaviest goddamn sweater I have ever owned. So it's coming off shortly. Is it because it's literally made of carpet? Oh, it's because it's weighted with the crimes of the Overlook Hotel, of course.
Soaked in blood. Gotcha. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
Your evil extravaganza stage.
Oh, that was perfect.
Much better.
A plus.
You got a happy little...
back away a little further.
You got a dancing jack-o'-lantern hat, I see. That's pretty fancy.
Yeah, this is how Korea does Halloween. That little bounce.
He's got little footy arms that dance.
Yeah, they usually are rabbits, and you squeeze like the little ends and their ears flop up, but they turned it into a pumpkin. There's a ghost
as
one
if a pumpkin
too.
Has little arms that dance, long legs that you squeeze, and an anus that's around your head.
Yes,
that's the appearance of this hat.
The pumpkin's anus is on my head.
The pumpkin's anus.
Tight.
You know, that's how we do things around here.
Pumpkins started off strong.
Around Southern Korea. Before we get into the main event, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Our November poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this November. The theme for November is Bride or Die, and the three movies to vote between are Bride of Frankenstein, Bride of Chucky, and Bride of Reanimator.
Hey, Bob.
The beast.
How those numbers looking? Can you tell me now how those numbers are looking?
I like what you did there. Thank you.
I don't know what you did there. What the hell?
Here comes the bride, but in his normal verbiage.
Okay. Okay. It wasn't shades of me, so I didn't get it.
The bride that is currently walking down the aisle to your ear holes is the Bride of Chucky.
Whoa, that's one of the choices.
That is
certainly a choice on our poll that we agreed to put on there.
Then, someone suggested that movie, and now it's winning.
Now we might have to talk about it.
All right.
Make sure you get your votes in before the end of October. We'll see what movie we're talking about this November. There's actually quite a few people still left to vote, so it could go anyway still. So we'll see.
It's a desperate plea for those keeping track at home.
Please vote. Dear God, please vote. In other Patreon news, we do have a brand new mini cast available for your ear holes. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a whole heap and helping of Patreon exclusive mini casts. I just dropped an episode about the Shudder original called Superhost. Randu and myself were jawing on about that little feature, weren't we, Randy?
Oh yes, it was quite an adventure. We couldn't remember the end of the movie, so spoiler alert.
Couldn't do it. Which probably doesn't speak too highly for the movie, but it's pretty decent still.
It doesn't speak too highly of us, for sure.
I mean, you know, we watch a lot of stuff. We can't remember it all, can we?
Oh, you know, memories for the young. Memories for young people like Soju.
That's right.
I can at least remember my movies.
Oh, you say that now.
All Soju's mini casts are completely complete.
Well,
completely.
Ours definitely has an ending, a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
slam our mini casts into your ear holes. There's like 50 plus on Patreon currently, and we add to that every month. And in more Patreon news, we have a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to. Big thanks to Nate for signing up and showing us some Patreon love. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. And as always, around these parts, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Nate.
Slap my ass.
Thank you, Nate,
for slapping my ass.
It's a hearty ass slap for us, and we appreciate it.
3 cherry red asses around these parts. We love it. Love to see it. What else? What else we got? We had a Joe Bob Briggs watch party last Friday. He was doing his Halloween hoedown. He did a double feature of Angel, and he also showed another movie that I'm totally blanking on.
Bob, your memory is slipping.
I wasn't there, so...
Babe caught you slipping, Bob.
It is. I'm getting old. They pretty much were. It was
unrelated phrase.
It was a giant. It was Terror Train, but it was really just a giant advertisement for Halloween Kills. Like in between Terror Train, they were just talking about Halloween Kills, which was really cool to hear.
Why didn't they show 2018? Damn,
they couldn't afford it.
You're telling me that they had a couple of Hollywood elites on a late night show to promote a movie? I don't agree with these tactics. Son of a bitch. They get you coming and going.
Old Dick Bibbs, he's not rolling in that dough. Damn.
They had, Shudder isn't, I guess. They had Gordon Green on there and Jason Blum, and yeah, they were talking about the making of Halloween Kills and stuff. They really talked about Angel extensively, which was the far worse movie, or at least interesting movie. I don't know. Neither one of these movies had anything to do with Halloween, but I don't know. It was basically a big advertisement to go watch Halloween Kills, which we're all going to do anyways. I mean, if you're watching Shudder, you're going to watch Halloween Kills.
That's true.
Thanks to everybody that hung out. The squad was super deep last Friday, and I stayed up for the entirety of the program for the first time in
I do not believe
quite some time.
Wow, Bob.
I was completely exhausted the next day. It was worth it, though. Thanks for everybody hanging out. And that,
if you needed any more proof that this is an aging podcast,
yeah,
I mean,
that's it. Yeah, we got nothing left.
7 years, yeah. Brings me to my last bit of housekeeping here. We are having our first ever Chilloween party this Friday, October 15th. At 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a Patreon exclusive event. If you sign up on Patreon at any level, you will be able to join in on our Chilloween party. We're going to have some horror trivia. We're going to be having a costume contest as well, and we're going to be screening a surprise horror flick. Again, that's Friday, October 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mark your calendars. Come hang out with us and get a little spooky.
We've definitely decided what that flick is going to be.
We have. For sure.
It's in the can, as they say. As Rob says frequently.
And loaded.
It is in the can, which means on my desktop. It's on my desktop as we speak.
As we speak.
That's all I got.
That's a pull.
Do you guys have any other housekeeping you want to touch on?
Yeah, real quick, just last week, since we're rolling into Halloween Kills and this episode is all about 3 Halloween films. Last week, we dropped a brand new YouTube video, youtube.com/straight chilling podcast. And it is all 3 of us talking about the entire Halloween franchise. We take each film and we put them on our tier list. We kind of rank them out, talk about them a little bit, our general thoughts. So if you want to know what our thoughts are in a kind of basic sense, but about each Halloween film, then check that video out and let us know what you think. What's your favorite Halloween film, or like how do you rank them?
Yeah, I gotta say there might be some adjustments on my end of that already.
Randy's got regrets.
Same.
Yeah, there's been some discussion in the Slack. Of course, everybody wants to give their ratings, which is awesome. I love to see where everybody kind of puts all the different movies. So yeah, check that out.
Awesome. Sounds like our houses are collectively clean.
This house
All right, let's go ahead and get into the main event. We're talking about Halloween, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, Halloween from 1978 with a runtime of 1 hour and 31 minutes. This was written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, directed by John Carpenter, stars Donald Pleasence, Jamie Lee Curtis, and a whole bunch of other people. Plot synopsis is as follows. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night, 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to kill again. Gentlemen, it's a silly question, but have you seen this movie, and would you recommend people check it out? Ray and Do, kick us off.
I have seen this film. We've already discussed ranking all of these films. So,
True.
Yeah, silly question for sure, but required. Yeah, I would recommend this movie. This is widely considered, and I think, spoilers, but I think I ranked it on the highest tier for myself of the bunch of Halloween movies. So yeah, it's a must watch for anybody who wants to know a thing about slashers, in my opinion. So yes, recommend.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
What is Halloween? Who is John Carpenter? Yes, we even covered this movie on this podcast before. This is not the first time we've done this. So yes, I have
7
seen
years
it.
ago, yeah.
Yeah, why this is essential viewing for the Halloween season. Watch it no matter what. Bob, how many boxes do you have of this? Is really my only question.
That's a great question.
I own it on Blu-ray and now on 4K as of this week. So just 2.
That's
You
a
don't
little
have a
disappointing
DVD?
somehow.
I did, but I got rid of my DVDs once I got the Blu-ray box set that Scream Factory put out a couple years ago.
Oh, all that preciousness about physical media just fell out the goddamn window.
That's what's going to happen with your Blu-ray collection.
Yeah,
I'm
a
telling
real
you.
good investment, everyone.
My
Right
office,
to the trash.
My office is only so big, man. I got limited real estate. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's only gonna get smaller with those extra blues.
Yeah, you're not just whistling Dixie. Seen this movie before. Obviously, would recommend checking it out. It's an all-timer. It's a classic. If you somehow haven't watched it, just treat yourself and watch it. Mandatory viewing. We're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie. Just fair warning. So watch it before you listen to this podcast. But here we go. We're gonna drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Let's do it.
Spoiler warning.
I fell in love with the Carpenter. Y'all heard that song? That's a jam. That's a fucking jam.
A song about falling in love with somebody who farms carp.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a jam.
Wow.
I do have the plot synopsis, the full plot synopsis. I'm going to go ahead and blast through this real quick. If you gentlemen
Let's
will
speed
indulge.
run this plot synopsis, Bob.
All right. On Halloween night, 1963, Haddonfield, Illinois, 6-year-old Michael Myers stabs his sister to death. For the next 15 years, he's locked away in a sanitarium. On October 30th, 1978, Dr. Loomis goes to pick him up for a hearing, but he has escaped. Michael steals a car, acquires some overalls, and a white expressionless mask. Upon arriving in Haddonfield, Michael sees Laurie Strode drop off a key at the abandoned Myers house. Michael stalks Laurie throughout the day, but her friends Annie and Linda dismiss her concerns. Dr. Loomis arrives in Haddonfield and warns Sheriff Brackett about Michael. They investigate the Myers house, and Loomis decides to stay there and wait for Michael to return. On Halloween night, Laurie babysits Tommy Doyle, and Annie babysits Lindsay Wallace across the street. Annie takes Lindsay over to the Doyle residence to stay the night so she can pick up her boyfriend, Paul. When she gets in the car, Michael Myers strangles her and cuts her throat. Soon after, Linda and her boyfriend, Bob, arrive at the empty Wallace house. They have some sex, and Bob is then stabbed by Michael. Linda calls Laurie and is strangled with a phone cord. Laurie walks over to the Wallace house after receiving the strange phone call and finds all of her friends are dead. She also finds a headstone in the bed that just says Judith Judith Myers on it. Michael appears and chases Laurie back across the street to the Doyle residence. She tells Tommy and Lindsay to hide. She stabs Michael in the neck with a knitting needle. She then hides in a closet, stabs him again in the eye with a hanger, and again in the chest with his own knife. Michael awakens once again and is shot several times by Loomis. Michael falls off the balcony, and by the time Loomis runs over to have a look, Michael is gone. Roll credits.
Oof, speed run.
There you go. That's what happens in this movie. It's a fairly simple plot. This movie succeeds primarily for its simplicity, I think. Obviously, it like invents a handful of things along the way, but it succeeds overall because it's not like bloated in plot. Like, it takes its time in a way that most horror movies don't, and especially the sequels.
Shit, most slashers don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the first half, Michael is just rolling around in the daytime.
Yeah, he's
just walking around.
He's just driving around in his fucking Macmobile.
He's bending
driving around in the
corners.
sanitarium. Yeah,
Rolling down the street, smoking Indo.
Yeah. But also I like, because it's set at Halloween, that's acceptable, because already kids are running around in the streets, even when it's daylight out. And so I like that as a setting for a slasher. Obviously it's called Halloween, but it allows you to have some of that freedom of just like being like, well, he's just hanging out, it's just
hanging out,
whatever he wants,
hanging out with his family,
having ourselves a party.
He's
so I like that. I also like that there's no, like you said, the simplicity. There's no explanation for this iconic mask that he literally just robs a store.
Evil.
Well, I know he just like robs the store.
Yeah.
I like
he robs the store and he chooses. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Oh, that was nice.
Okay. Now, the mask is as famously a Captain Kirk mask, either inside out or spray painted. I can never remember which.
spray painted, allegedly.
Spray painted. All right, and like it's a weird costume. It turns out to be iconic because it's so unique. Like, it's not like that was on the shelves as is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I to me it's become so iconic in the future, but here it's just like a matter of convenience. So the whole costume is, and I kind of love that too. Like there's something.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, like that, everything in like the jumpsuit, the butcher's knife, like these are like known as icons now, and you can't have a Michael Myers movie without them at least being referenced heavily. Not that we've gotten anything less than that besides Halloween 3, but like that's like it's not really necessary for those to be the icons. They became the icons because of this movie. And I think that's like, it speaks volumes about this movie that they became so integral to the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the only thing that might hurt for the sequels, because you're right. I like that it's a matter of convenience. In the future, he's always got to wear this blue jumpsuit, but here it's just because he escaped from a mental ward. He's literally in a gown, and the first person he kills outside just happens to be a tow truck worker or whatever. So he steals his get up. But here, like you said, it becomes so iconic later, and maybe that becomes a bit of a cheese factor. Like, oh, he's always got to wear this blue jumpsuit, always got to have this mask. But here, he literally just does that, and then he robs a store to get a mask to blend in on Halloween so that nobody recognizes his face. So Loomis, who's hunting him, doesn't recognize his face. That's beautiful.
And also, it's like, I'm sorry, Rob, you were going to say something, it looks like.
I was just going to say, I don't think he steals a mask because it's Halloween. I think he just like has an affinity for covering his fucking face. Like, he needs to have it on. When it's removed, he immediately puts it back on, even though everybody knows who he is by then. He just has to have his face
covered. True. Yeah.
It could be, but honestly, it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because either way, the net effect is he gets to walk around freely, either because of his compulsion to wear it or his scheming to wear it. But what I was going to say is actually about the scheming aspect, like Justin was saying, if that is indeed what's happening. And I think there's evidence in these first few Halloween movies of Michael Myers really like scheming things, which is something that it kind of loses as the series goes on. And I think it's in part due to the way they handled Jason Voorhees in future, like how the slasher realm just kind of breaks those two characters. It's like they started writing Michael Myers kind of as as either like a Frankenstein or a Jason Voorhees, which is kind of the same equation at a certain point. And I think that's kind of like sad because in these, he's not doing a whole lot of scheming, but it shows that he's got a level of intelligence. Drives
and he always drives in every movie.
He
does.
He wears a fucking ghost costume and pulls out his sister's grave just for set pieces for his own kills. Like, this is a guy who's like, he's got a flair. He's got flair, this guy. He's not just a hulking beast.
One of my favorites is he does the ghost, which sets up, future movies. A lot of the future movies try to reference, the kind of practical Joker of him doing the ghost where he's, I feel like in almost like the most sequels that matter try to do one kill like that where he's kind of tricking somebody in a goofy kind of way. And I like that too, because like you said, it does show that he has some personality. One thing I kind of hate about, again, the Rob Zombie ones is that he pretty much just turns him into a kind of Jason where he makes him bigger and hulking. And here he's like a big guy and he's like inexplicably strong, but he's not like, some freak or whatever.
Well, I think one of the most important traits about Michael Myers is that he's credited as the shape, not as Michael Myers. So he's like featureless. If he was like absolutely massive, people would recognize him. Like the thing is, he has no features. Even his mask has no features, so that he can move around undetected and do whatever he wants to do. But yeah, he is strong as hell, of course. And he also, like you mentioned, Randy, like he likes to play with people. Like he's not necessarily just pure evil like Loomis claims. Like he has a personality, or else he would just be moving through and like slaughtering these girls immediately instead of like following them around and like hiding outside in the laundry and like watching them get stuck in the window and dressing up like their boyfriend and then staging all of these dead bodies in the house so that Laurie has to walk through and find them. Like they fall out of the freaking closet. It's a nightmare situation for him. And I always thought it was really funny that like Michael is wearing a mask and then he puts on like a sheet over the top of his mask and then he puts on prescription glasses that are not his. Like that dude cannot see shit. He is just playing with you. Like,
oh, interesting. European style.
Yeah. I love that scene though. The Bob the Ghost scene is one of my favorites.
It's so great. And that's the thing is like, this is, part of it is that, Loomis is insistent and it becomes more and more like canonical or at least, like close to people's heart that the idea is that this is a pure evil character. I can still get behind that. And I think that that's like by and large one of the things that people like, still love about this movie for a reason is because it's motiveless killings, but it's not killing without personality. It's not just randomly walking around and killing people. It is somewhat random, but he's doing it. The way he stands, the way he looks at people, those are intimidation tactics. They're not just because he's brain dead. Like he's not a brain dead character. And I really love that about this first movie because to me, that's scarier. Like the thing about this movie started as the babysitter murders in script form. And it was not, I don't remember if it was intentional. I don't know if they swapped it over to Halloween or if it was set on Halloween and then they decided to focus on that. Bob, can you enlighten me on that?
Yeah. So, Carpenter and Deborah Hill started writing a movie called The Babysitter Murders, and then Irwin Yablans, who's like the executive producer on here, came up with the idea of calling it Halloween and setting it on Halloween. So they just merged the two ideas, and that's where the movie kind of came from.
Gotcha. So like the whole thing is just, it works really, really goddamn well as a psycho killer, not an undead monster. And I think that there's something, or even like a hulking, like impervious to death killer, which is what he becomes. And the repetition of the series is kind of, it's both its strength and its flaw in so many ways. It's hard to please everybody because you give them what they want every time, but what they want, or most of the time, and what they want is more Michael Myers acting this way, and then tastes change, and it's like, no. He can't act that way. He's pure evil. Or no. Why doesn't he have a motive? And then people are weird about it as a franchise. But in this movie, irreversibly, almost without like any argument from anybody, everybody is going to say that this is like one of the best of the franchise, if not the best, because it's so visceral and like seemingly like it seems more real, even if like some of the performances aren't as good as some of the later ones in some cases, even if some of the set pieces aren't as bombastic. This is the one that feels the most like it's got a grounding to me.
It does. And two, even like the things that bog down later ones is, and this one, it's almost random, but everything's very focused though, too. He picks a target and like we said, he stalks them. And it's part of this bigger thing because even before he is stalking these girls, he has gone and got the gravestone. So it's a part of a ritual almost. Like there's a reason, he's back specifically on Halloween night. It was the night he killed his sister, who's the same age as these girls he's following. He picks his target because they just happened to stop by his family home where he was hanging out. He stalks them, and it's not all about goddamn Laurie Strode. The only reason that she's attached because she goes to the house and he follows the car. But even when she goes to her house, he goes and chases the other girl first. Mm-hmm. And the only reason everybody else gets wrapped up in that is because they're using that house to fuck. So
that's a great point. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because like everything else is always goddamn about Laurie Strode. But in this one, it's about the ritual of the killings on Halloween. And it, like you said, he's not brain dead. He's not obsessed with Laurie Strode. It does feel more real because somebody's stalking you and you kind of feel that where they turn around like somebody's watching us. But really, the point I like about this too is Laurie is the one who's paranoid because she's got more of a focused kind of mind, like she's, a goody two shoes or whatever. But it's the girl who is more aloof and just trying to live her life and like, oh, Laurie, like you're being ridiculous or whatever. She's the one who gets, she's the one who gets axed first. And it's such a better, it's like superior and it's just overall setup where it is more simple, but still focused. I like it much, much better than anything else we get, of course.
Yeah. I mean, Bob, you're saying something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it's definitely not all about Laurie Strode, but it is like he seems to like take the most time with her. Like he doesn't come straight for her, but he does set up that like horrific tableau with the intention that somebody's going to walk through it and see it all. And it just so happens that Laurie is the one that crosses the street. And he calls her and like breathes on the phone. And then, later on when he's killing PJ Souls, like she thinks it was PJ Souls both times, but that's ultimately what brings her over to the house to see all that. So it's not all about her, but it is almost like she's sort of like the set piece of his like horror show in a way.
She becomes a target for sure. And like she starts as a target and she becomes sort of like the ultimate target that got away. And I can see justifying him chasing her for that reason, but we'll get to the other reasons that he chases Laurie later. In this movie, to me, it's like she's just next on the list and she just happens to be, because it's like it's an early slasher movie that's establishing tropes like being the virginal or the responsible one who isn't living the dangerous youthful lifestyle, who gets, doesn't get comeuppance. And I don't know if John Carpenter would agree with those statements, but that's a net effect of it.
He does not agree with those statements. So
I kind of thought that was true.
Any sort of like morality tale that you might want to take out of this movie, and I feel like a lot of other filmmakers have and kind of ran with that. Obviously, if you watch Scream, like Randy breaks down the rules of surviving a horror movie. You can't have sex, don't do drugs, never say I'll be right back because you won't ever be right back. But like none of that was intended from John Carpenter when he was making this movie. I mean, even if you watch this, like Laurie Strode smokes weed. She's not completely innocent. She's not having sex, but she does.
Yeah, they're smoking it in
I forgot about. I always forget that.
Yeah, when she's riding around in the car with Linda, I think she's with Linda.
That's right Annie, before they see her dad. Yeah, they're like, "Oh shit, it's my dad."
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Annie. Yeah, and they roll up on her dad. Yeah, and they're trying to like get rid of the doobie real quick. So like, she's not completely innocent. She does smoke weed.
Drop the dude, bro.
She's token and joking, but she also likes to get her learn on. So yeah, she's not.
She can answer questions in class.
It's not a morality tale. No.
Yeah, I never saw it that way either. I never saw it that way because like it's almost like I don't know, the two who are having sex, they just also happen to be drinking. Everything just seems like, happenstance. I never took it as kind of a morality tale because he's trying to kill Laurie. It's like he's doing his best to get her.
The thing is, those are the rules of slashers as of 96 and Scream. It's laid out. They are the rules, but it's not the rules because John Carpenter intended it to be. Like, and I can understand that entirely. It's a de facto result of it being a very successful slasher and it being mimicked in a million different ways. So like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, or not self-fulfilling prophecy. That's not a thing, but it's just something that grew organically from the success of this movie, not so much from a place of intention or morality or anything. That's fine. I can get behind that totally. And in fact, Justin's right. It actually increases the set of reality in this, to think of it the other way around. It's like, no, she's not getting killed because she's a responsible babysitter. That's just something that we happen to be seeing. She's responsible, and therefore turns out she is more capable of thinking on her feet. She's not drunk. She's not preoccupied with getting some, it just so happens that all these things align. Michael makes easy targets of these other girls who are much more aloof about stuff. And it's just like a personality thing. It's just a matter of convenience, like everything else that we talked about. Like, that's what makes it work on a deeper level to me, is just like, this is just a killer who's like, there's a young girl, like the one that I need to kill for my ritual, or because I need to kill tonight. I can kill this young girl. I can kill this other young girl. I can kill this other guy who happens to be there, and I can try and kill Laurie Strode. But oops, Laurie Strode just happens to be capable enough to get away until Loomis can clock him with a gun at the end.
Yeah.
And also, I guess the only thing you could argue against that is what sets this movie up, or not argue against it, but I guess where people might kind of get that idea is the setup for this is Michael killing his sister right after, and when she's naked, you get the yabos. Yeah, it's set up very sexually, and like that's the establishing, shot motive for this entire movie and essentially, this entire franchise. So I could get where people would definitely want to pull from that, and that is something to consider because this first scene is very sexually violent and it involves a child, which is pretty fucked up.
They're so salacious. So of course, mimickers are going to mimic the salaciousness aspect.
It's also the quickest bang in the world. That was
dude, I was going to say that, dude. That pumped and dumped, dude. Holy shit. That dude was in and out legit 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. That whole opening sequence, in addition to the potential of reading it as being a morality tale, the way we got the POV shot with the handy cam where he's walking all the way around the house, and you got the hand grabbing the knife up the stairs, puts on the mask, and you see through the eye holes. That whole sequence is incredibly iconic. It's one that I guess the handy cam was a relatively new invention around the time that this movie was filmed, and a lot of the movie was shot on handy cam. We see that now in just about every damn movie because they're everywhere and very affordable. But at the time, that was sort of groundbreaking, and it's fucking dope.
Dude, that cold open, it could totally stand alone as a great short film.
It could, yeah. Totally
on its own. And that's how you that's not true of most of these Halloween movies or most slasher movies or even a lot of horror movies. I would say it's a rare thing that they have a really strong, iconic opening like that could totally stand on its own.
It kind of even does, because at the end, it's I used to not like it, but this past couple years, I've really focused on it in that kind of way where they do that freeze frame and they kind of zoom out and nobody's really moving. The parents have this expressionless look on their face, and I used to be that's kind of lame, but it's got this fun. I was thinking of the era this time when this kind of came out, and it's got this almost sitcom-y kind of feel to it, but it's obviously the most horrific kind of thing going on in suburbia, because you have this suburban house, this kid, this girl, teenage girl, the two parents. It's something you'd see out of a normal sitcom of the era. And but this brother is doing this horrific thing. He's a child, and like this just kind of zoom out. It almost has these like Happy Days kind of feel where like, oh, and I was a child, and it like zooms out, but it's got this cool stylistic look to it where everyone just kind of freezes and you're left to sit with like, what the fuck just happened? And it's making it a child is such a bold fucking move.
Well, and that to me, it works like, I don't know. I don't get sitcom vibes from it at all, which is interesting. But to me, it's like it's Campfire Story. So yeah, the story freezes though, or it's Campfire Story or like comic book tale. It's almost Creep Show in the way where that last shot is the pan out and like, you know, the end at the bottom of the screen. Except you move instead to a great opening sequence, a great title sequence instead.
What something that Carpenter was playing with was like the idea that every sort of suburban town has one creepy house at the end of the street that like there's some sort of piece of folklore about that all the residents of the town know, and that's ultimately what the Myers house becomes after that opening sequence is just this old dark decrepit house. And one of the kids, I think Tommy calls it like the spook house, and there's like bad stuff that happened there. It's like everybody kind of knows to avoid it, and that's one of like the core ideas that he was playing with when he came up with the plot of this movie. Is like, okay, well, why is it like decrepit? Why is nobody living there? Why is it like this evil haunted house? And you get this backstory out of that, which is a great way to like, I don't know, like invent a piece of folklore for yourself that somebody can go tell sitting around the campfire, you know?
At the time, that whole like Michael as an adult stalking the girls, that's a very modern feeling horror. But the kid like slasher at the end of your street seems very much like more to me like something you would talk to your friends about at a campfire as a child. It's like your childhood nightmare becomes an adult nightmare. I don't know. I think that's fucking brilliant. And that hold open, I just like, I'll never give up saying how that might be my favorite part of the whole movie, honestly, is just the open entirely, including the title sequence, which I love as a designer. It's like simple. It's incredible. And so iconic. You literally can't walk around in Halloween anymore without seeing a pumpkin designed exactly like that pumpkin with the little like the little cut lip and all that shit. Like, I don't know. I love it.
Not to mention the score happening over the top of the title sequence, which is one of the most iconic scores in history.
Not just the title sequence, but even when the kid's creeping again to talk about how amazing that opening scene is. The bum, bum, you know, it's like so simple, but with him like walking and stalking, and you don't know it's a kid at the time. You're right. The whole opening is like a short where you get a twist. You get like this whole kind of story. Yeah, it is like really
and like and just to add to that, my favorite musical moment in the whole show and the whole movie rather is when Michael looks up at the top floor and the light comes on and goes that ding. That, I can't mimic it vocally, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh yeah,
it's a great little stinger. Yeah.
And because nothing happens, it's like spooky as shit though, and it's nothing. It's just a sound.
You don't expect it at all. Yeah, it'll get you.
And it's just so in sync with the visual, and I think it's the first like music that we get. It might be. I can't remember now that I'm thinking of it.
The theme happens throughout the opening credits.
Well, I know. All I know is that for at least a few seconds up until that moment, there's some silence for sure.
True. Yeah. It is silent. It's jarring when it happens.
It's so jarring. It's great.
Just to add to that real quick, the whole score was composed by Carpenter in 3 days. He scored the whole movie in 3 days.
I can understand that, man. Like, again, it's a simplicity thing. Like, again, with the score, it's just, it's simple. Like, occasionally, it's a memorable couple of bars that use some dissonant tones and are timed well with the action. It's really all it takes. It's just
him directing it might have like really helped.
Yeah.
In it, because like just to be even that opening sequence, like I was saying, like kind of like the steps, it vibes very well together. It feels like someone who has a clear idea what they want, you know, visually and sonically together. And so I think that was really helpful in pairing these two. One thing I'd like to give credit for too, and what is, I don't know, I feel like a misunderstanding when considering these films, but actually in this one and most of the ones we're going to talk about tonight, the police actually take this situation pretty seriously. not overly seriously, where they're like, get the squad out and like pound the streets or whatever, but they like take it as a real threat and put efforts into stopping it in this movie and the one we're going to talk about next. And it's like, I was like, yeah, like they're never just brushing anybody off.
There's no cheap Wiggums in this movie.
Yeah. They're actually, everybody's kind of doing their due diligence, like there's not a whole lot of just boneheaded decisions that you can blame on like stupidity or anything like that. Like everybody's kind of doing hubris. Everybody's kind of doing the best that they can do, honestly.
True. And even to the point of like police taking orders from a psychiatrist who is talking about a supposed unseen threat that they don't like. For them to take it as seriously as they do is interesting to watch, because like in most movies, there's more than enough reasons for them to write it off as a crank on Halloween. Even with his credentials, they could be like, yeah, whatever. It's Halloween. We got too much else going on to worry with your shit. And a lot of movies would go that route, but this one, the chief of fucking police is right there in the car with him and taking orders from him, even
and driving him around.
Like he's carting this old fart around. It's crazy. So I mean, good for them, I guess.
The only thing the sheriff does that I kind of disagree with, though, is he ultimately like blames Loomis for, quote, letting Michael escape. Like when they start coming across dead bodies, he's like, why did you let him out? He's like, dude, have you not heard a word I've said? I've done everything I can to keep him locked up,
Well, some of that comes in part two, and I want to save that conversation for part two, some of it, but he does say that in this movie too, just for a second. He's like, if he is there, damn you for letting him out. Right, and I love that Loomis in every movie that this happens, in the first two movies, he's like, he goes from being like, he's pure evil, he's a devil man, to being like, no, I didn't do that. Like even sometimes like a shamed child about it. I love that.
I don't know. I think that's actually kind of realistic, where you just kind of blame the factor that it's not like he's going to be like, damn the system, damn. I mean, Loomis is there, and so he just blames him. I feel like that's pretty realistic.
I don't know. I don't have any real qualms with that, except I just think that it's hilarious the way that Loomis goes from an attack dog to a puppy in like an instant. But yeah, can we talk about the kills like real quick, because there's a couple things in this that are totally worth noting. And we talked about the ghost kill, which is also an amazing kill, just like visually so appealing. And what's her name? PJ, I can never remember
PJ
Souls, thank you. PJ Souls, like thinking that it's her boyfriend, and like, God, it's just so like fucking, it's so slasher. It's like, there's a reason this movie is so influential, and there's a reason. It's because it's so fucking fun to watch somebody be so like confident that they're talking to one person and then be proven wrong in the worst way possible. And then like there's the other thing, though, the one I wanted to point out was Annie's death. Now, Annie is a constant like pain in the ass in this movie, I've noticed. Like she's just constantly giving people shit. It's all in good fun or whatever, but she's constantly giving people shit, and she's like complaining about other people's stuff. She calls Laurie's crush and tries to like hook him up without her consent.
What a piece of shit.
Ben Tramer. We'll talk more about Ben Tramer.
Oh, Ben Tramer's going to come back up.
But when she gets that piece on that too, it's another one where he schemes, where she goes to the car to, I forget exactly the situation, but
she's going to go pick up Paul.
That's what it is. And she forgets her keys. She's singing to herself. It's all very like, it seems very slice of life realistic, even in the context of a murder about to happen. And she goes back inside. She comes back out, and he's in the car. She doesn't know this. He got in. She opens the car door, not realizing that it's unlocked now. It's great, that part. And then he throttles her, and he throttles her to death, and she's been hit, like banging on the horn or whatever. And the way like it's all like fogged up in the car. And I noticed this. I don't know how I never noticed this before, but when she dies, she falls over towards the camera, towards the driver's side window, which is foggy. And she's clearly doing a very exaggerated, eyes crossed, tongue out death face from like silent era death face. And it cracked my ass up this time.
I've never noticed that either.
It's so funny. You gotta watch that shit again. It's an effective kill, but she like goes so hammy with it.
She falls onto the horn of the car, which is like kind of a theme that happens again in the next movie as well, which we can get there. But there's also like a very iconic sort of like synth stab whenever she finally does die. Like, I don't know, man. It's like, it's a little heavy-handed, the score, but it's like, it just stands out as being so like effective in a way that most scores aren't. Like, you know, when like jump scares happen in movies, it feels like hammy. I don't know. They work in this movie for some reason in a way that they don't work in other movies. I just
think they're sonically better. Like, honestly, maybe, yeah. Like they're just sonically better. They're timed so perfectly. I mean, it's easy to fuck up a stinger like that if you go with like the dun dun dun, like you go with the tried and trues, you can really make it pretty hokey. But these, especially for the time, I feel like were pretty unique in their field of being audio stingers, and I think they hold up really well now, better than just about any of the other Halloween movies. Even like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's another thing that I think is superior in this based on other movies in the franchise.
I also can't think maybe one of any other movie where the score is so essentially tied to the success as well of the film. And the only other one I thought it was Suspiria. Like, so
are you thinking horror or in general? Because John Williams has
horror.
To say about that.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Specifically in horror. So Suspiria was the only other one that kind of came to my mind where it's like so iconic to that.
Jaws.
But
I guess repetition based.
If you count Jaws as horror.
Yeah, that's true. True. Jaws, Halloween, Suspiria.
Even The Exorcist, which is very similar, obviously, and easily confused on that one bar anyway.
So yeah,
there's a few, but yeah,
it's like it's like pretty tightly woven into like any scene that you have in this, you know, like where you could think of like the score is equally as important as anything visually that you're going to get to the success of this film.
Yeah. Gentlemen, we gotta start landing this here plane. Any quick hitters before we rate Halloween? No.
I mean, yeah.
I'll just say it in my review. I'm good.
Okay, deal. Let's go ahead and rate this out of 5. Juice, would you please kick us off? How do you feel about Halloween?
Yeah, this movie's awesome. It is the kind of essential slasher in a way. It takes. We're going to talk about maybe a little bit of some of its connections with Black Christmas, but you know, it's got the first person kind of view. It's tied around a holiday, and stuff like that. But this one, just the creation of Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, Loomis, those are iconic characters that don't really exist in like a Black Christmas. They're so distinct, and there's a reason why a franchise was kind of built around these characters. The setting is awesome. The opening is amazing. The score is great. I love how they kind of take their time. It's got a realistic feel where the police take it seriously. Obviously, Loomis is taking it seriously. Oh, one thing we didn't mention, one thing that like no other Halloween movie has been able to get as right as this one to me is the fucking lighting and the shadows and the way fucking Michael comes out of the shadows sometimes. With this just being a spray painted Spock mask or whatever it is, Star Trek mask, dude, they do such a good job. It's like having him come out of the shadows with it being a white mask, but him just like being right. It's the lighting and the shadows in this is so fucking good. There's so many, like there's at least 3 times that come to my brain of like just amazing lighting that doesn't make it feel cheap. Like the actual outfit, you know, just the jumpsuit and the white mask doesn't make it feel cheap or whatever. It's just so brilliant. Each kill is pretty distinct. You know, you got the ghost kill, you got the sister kill, the dude hanging up with the knives. Eventually, you know, he gets there hanging up with the knife on the wall. Getting her in the back of the car scene. It's just I watch it every Halloween season, 1 and 2 together. It's a great seasonal piece. I also like Randy said something. I didn't want to cut him off, and I kind of forgot. But he was talking about it becoming like an adult, you know, a kid's a kid's story kind of becoming an adult real horror. And I like how they play with that dichotomy with the actual kids in this. So that's something I feel like a lot of the sequels have failed on for my personal enjoyment. But the kids in this, like asking like, what is the boogeyman, and seeing the shape across the street and playing with those ideas too, where it's these kids who are scared of the boogeyman. And then these teenagers who are coming into this reality of like, shit, you know, there's really a killer out there. I think is really great. We could talk about this, you know, we're doing a trip split, so we got to go quick on this one. We could talk about this movie for like 3 hours in itself. I'm going to give it a 5-star plus half star for the Yabos. That's a 5.5 for Halloween.
All right. Well, I guess.
Booby, give me your Halloween breakdown.
Alrighty, yeah. So this movie really set the standard for slasher movies to come, and I think eventually ended up having to compete with those other slasher movies that sort of like elevated what this movie did, and I think that was ultimately to the detriment of the franchise. But this really set the standard here. This was the most profitable indie film from its release all the way up until Blair Witch Project, which was released in 1999. So it held that title for quite some time. This is obviously the introduction of Michael Myers, the iconic mask, the iconic score, the cinematography, which was shot by Dean Cundy, shot this movie and the sequel. The movie looks incredible still to this day. Most movies don't look this good. They even took time to create this goofy little children's rhyme at the very beginning of the movie. The iconic title sequence, just like the way this movie has a sort of mature kind of pace to it, I think allowed a lot of critics to even like tip their hat at it. Whereas a lot of critics like watch a horror movie and they kind of put their nose up in the air. It's like less than, but this movie has a certain like artistic prowess to it where like you can't help but acknowledge that it's a fantastically crafted movie, even if horror isn't really your bag. You're kind of forced to reckon with this movie. I mean, it's still talked about to this day for a reason. It's because it's that damn good. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's a 5 out of 5. Randu, how do you do?
So I got a lot to say about this movie. I'll try and get there quick, but this is an amazing movie. I'm gonna give it a 5-star. I'm just putting that out there to begin. This movie, I think, it's a standard bearer, right? The movie, there was Black Christmas, there was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was Psycho, but there was no like template for the future of slashers, and that's what this movie is. And the reason I was sitting here thinking about why that could be, and I think the reason is because it kind of does a perfect like accessibility blend. This movie is brutal, it's scary, and it's stalking. The stalking is what makes it scary. The playfulness of the killer is what makes it scary. And just the fact that there's no motive. It's just a madman trying to kill people, playing with his food. And, you know, there's not a whole lot of like extreme overt gore in this movie. It kind of follows the Psycho rubric of kind of showing the gore in what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of off screen, like it's suggested rather than shown. Whereas like Texas Chainsaw a few years before went full hog into it, and it also suggested, but it was much more brutal, and it was about the brutality. It was about something much more visceral, and that's why that movie is remembered, and it's an amazing movie for that reason. But this because it sort of like toned that down and amped up the playfulness aspect to I think it became it was more broadly acceptable to people. And I think that's why one of the reasons it was so successful. And I think that's why it became sort of the torch that lit the way for the rest of slashers for a while. And then eventually had trouble keeping up itself, is because it opened the doors to a template for other movies to glom onto. And that could be for better or for worse, obviously. But like this movie's legacy speaks for itself. It is, like Rob said, it has an artistic merit as far as people are concerned, if only for its legacy, but also because of all the things we talked about. The lighting, the music is amazing. It's iconic. The mask is amazing. It's iconic. The shape itself like is amazing and iconic. The use of a madman killing babysitters, like that whole thing, everything about this iconic as to be, and this is where things get weird, to the point where it's like, it became almost overdone. You know what I mean? This movie kind of suffers from its own success in a way because it is the template. When people watch it now, they've seen 10 movies that have done something similar already. So I feel like new people coming and watching it cold after years of watching, I don't know, like Hatchet movies or, whatever, Nightmare on Elm Street, anything. Those things are spawned by this movie, but because they were spawned from this movie, they share the DNA. This is the source DNA for it. People could watch this movie and be bored. And I've heard people say that. I've watched a few like reactors on YouTube reacting to this movie, and they wouldn't say it's bored because they're always positive. They never want to piss off fans, but you can tell them they're like, oh, cool. Like they're not that thrilled because as well as this movie is made, they've seen it done in a way that is to modern sensibilities. So, it loses something in that for people, but not for me. I saw this early enough to where I loved it. It's a 5-star film that's necessary to really understand the legacy of slashers. I just love it. And yeah, there we go. I'll just leave it there.
Awesome. Quick math, that puts our aggregate at a 5-star. Let's go ahead and jump into
a 5.15 with the half star for Yabos, right?
It's through the ceiling. We can't do it. Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Halloween.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment of the show where I'm going to give these boys a chance to guess with the best of their abilities what the critics and users aggregate are on RottenTomatoes.com for Halloween 78, the OG. We're going to start with the critics on this. There are 73 critic reviews on this. Not a massive sampling, but enough. And we're going to start with Soju. Soju, what do you think that the critics gave this film on Rotten Tomatoes?
Ooh, I think it's going to be high, but it's so hard to tell when the reviews actually came out. Either way, I think it's going to be fucking high. 85.
85. All right, Bob, what about you?
I'll take a 90, please.
90. All right, well, that was a good call on your part. It's a 96. Bob's going to take this.
Ooh, I like that.
Fresh. It is extremely high for a slasher.
Can I get a hell skeet?
Hey, Bob. Hell skeet.
Thank you.
There you go. The skeet is hell. All right. And now we're going to quickly, because I know we're kind of...
You might need to get that checked out.
Yeah, the skeeting is hell. No kink shaming, but skeeting, that shit's hell.
Oh, God, I'm skeeting. No.
Oh, God. No.
Let's move on to the audience score. There are, unsurprisingly, so many audience ratings for this. 250,000 plus ratings for this film. We'll start with Bob this time. Bob, where are you at with the audience on this? How do you think they feel?
I'll take a 92, please.
92. All right. Juice, where are you at? Higher, lower? What are you taking?
Ooh, that's so high. I'll go slightly lower to cover my bets with the 90.
90. Well, again, 90 was the correct choice. It's an 89. Very, very close.
Oh, so close. Oh, gonna get a hell yeet.
All right, the hells, the yeets.
All right, one
skeets,
for one, Bob. We've got lots of choices today. Let's see who comes out on top.
We'll see.
Critics' consensus reads, scary, suspenseful, and viscerally thrilling, Halloween has set the standard for modern horror films. Reasonable to say, for sure. And one negative review, if I can even find one, it's not on the front page, I'll tell you that. I'm just going to read a random one. Let's just go with a positive one because I can't find a negative. Aside from the ideas presented in the movie, Carpenter and his team have also crafted a visually rich and well-paced thriller that provided the framework for all future slasher films. That's somebody who, Ed Travis from Hollywood Jesus. All right. That's a good name.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Cop Tinder. Let's go ahead and jump into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Bob, you're going to take the reins this week.
All right. I got some trivia. I'll try and blast through this real quick. And I'll see if I can make some games. I know you guys like games. You just love games.
Oh,
I like
make
games.
It spicy like Soju likes to do.
Oh, boy. So this movie
Around here, that means big money.
This movie was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Some would say all three.
Yes.
Carpenter agreed to
Some might
direct
say.
this film contingent on him having full creative control. He was paid $10,000 for his work and retained 10% of the film's profits for writing, directing, and scoring the movie. So this dude definitely got paid.
Good call on that one. Yeah.
I don't know if that's high or low in the standard of movie making, but that's a lot no matter how you slice.
That seems high, but also he got paid $10,000. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think from what I understand now, it's like rare for a director to get points like that on a movie's return. I know Blumhouse is famous for doing that though, and they actually pay you what they promise you, from what I understand. So that's why motherfuckers like to work for Blumhouse.
Way to go, Blums.
Yeah,
fuck you, Disney.
fucking Disney. Speaking of Black Christmas, apparently there was a conversation between Bob Clark and John Carpenter before he directed Halloween. Carpenter asked Bob Clark if he were to make a sequel to Black Christmas, what would he do? Bob Clark responded by saying, it would be the next year. The guy would have actually been caught. He would escape from a mental institution, go back to the house, and they would start all over again. I would call it Halloween. And then he goes on to say that
What the fuck?
he goes on to say that the truth is John didn't copy Black Christmas. He wrote a script. He directed the script. He did the casting. Halloween is his movie. And besides, the script came to him already titled Halloween. He didn't call it that, which is true. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot you could assume that he like took from Black Christmas, but when hearing it straight from Bob Clark's mouth, like it's hard to argue with.
Well, they are very different films in a lot of key ways. So it's not like, I mean, they are also very similar, and obviously that's a thing that happened. So,
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that if it came to his hands and it already had the title of Halloween on it, then somebody else was like, movie like Black Christmas. That's fair to say.
Probably.
But once, you know, Carpenter gets his hands on it, then I mean, you know, you got to give the guy credit.
That's
for what
creation, man. Yeah, I mean nobody's like looking at one of the newer Star Wars movies and saying, "Man, George Lucas really fucked this up," because he's not involved anymore.
Yeah. But he did fuck it up.
Well, I mean, he did in his own right, but that's a different story.
Our girl Deborah Hill, she worked as a babysitter during her teenage years, so she ended up writing most of the female characters' dialogue. Carpenter drafted Loomis's speeches. The fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois, was derived from Haddonfield, New Jersey, where Hill was raised, while several of the street names were taken from Carpenter's hometown of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Carpenter's inspiration for the evil that Michael embodied came from a visit he had taken during college to a psychiatric institution in Kentucky. There he visited a ward with his psychology classmates where the most seriously mental ill patients were held. Among those patients, there was an adolescent who possessed a blank schizophrenic stare. I don't know how to turn any of these into a game, really. Oh, here's one. I can do this.
Sounds like a fun game to me.
So the
really set yourself up there, Bob.
The low budget limited the number of big names that Carpenter could attract, and most of the actors received very little compensation for their roles. Pleasence was the highest paid. What do you guys think Donald Pleasence made for this movie? Randy?
Ooh.
Oh shit! I mean, I have no basis for knowledge for what people would have been paid at that time. Anyway, I mean, if Carpenter was paid $10,000, I got to think pretty goddamn low. I'm going to go $5,000.
Okay.
I don't know. He was fresh though. I don't know. It's probably higher.
I'm going to say he got higher than Carpenter since Carpenter knew he was going to get, the back end. So I'll say 50,000.
Okay. Well, Randy was closer. He made 20 G's for this movie.
I'm actually surprised that is much better reasoning than mine.
Yeah, it's not a high number, but he was willing to do it. Jamie Lee Curtis, who was introduced in this film, made $8,000, and Nick Castle, who played the Shape, was paid $25 a day. God bless that man.
Holy shit! $25 a day.
Yeah. But he got to keep the mask for a year.
How many days?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably not a whole lot, but I think
that's terrible.
Yeah. The role
But
of
at least he gets to go on the fucking con circuit now.
Oh, lucky him.
The role of Dr. Loomis was originally intended for Peter Cushing, who had recently appeared as Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars 1977. Cushing's agent rejected Carpenter's offer due to the low salary. Christopher Lee was approached for the role. He turned it down, although the actor later told Carpenter and Hill that declining the role was the biggest mistake he made during his career.
Yeah, dude, that dude's been in some shitty films, and he passed up on fucking Howling. We've covered some of them.
Yes, we
Howling
have.
2, looking at
The
you,
Howling
Miles.
Deuce.
Motherfucking Miles, looking at you.
One of the Hobbit films. Ugh.
Nick Castle befriended Carpenter while they attended the University of Southern California. After Halloween, Castle became a director. He took the helm and shot The Last Starfighter, The Boy Who Could Fly, Dennis the Menace, and Major Payne. Fucking Major Payne.
Major Payne?
Yeah.
I fucking loved that movie coming up.
According to Jamie Lee Curtis, Carpenter created a fear meter because the film was shot out of sequence and she was not sure what her character's level of terror should be. So they had like a number system as to how frightened she should be during a given scene. Carpenter bills himself as the Bowling Green Philharmonic Orchestra for performing the film's score, but he did receive some assistance from composer Dan Wyman. And the last bit I have here is some songs can be heard in the film, one being an untitled song performed by Carpenter and a group of his friends who formed a band called the Coupe de Villes. The song is heard as Laurie steps into Annie's car on her way to babysit Tommy Doyle when they are toking and joking. That is all I got for the trivia.
Token and stroking.
Token, joking, and stroking. We are getting into our second feature for the evening. We are talking about Halloween 2 from 1981.
What's on the back of the box?
Here we go. We got a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes. This was directed by Rick Rosenthal. This was written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. Stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasence, Charles Cyphers, and a bunch of other returning cast here. Plot synopsis is as follows. While Dr. Loomis hunts for Michael Myers, a traumatized Laurie is rushed to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and the Shape is not far behind her. Gentlemen's, another silly question. Had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Juice, why don't you kick us off this time?
Dude, I always watch these movies together. So I have seen this movie many a times, and I would recommend that you check it out. Again, I would recommend you watch it just like I do, back to back with the front movie. Do yourself a favor, do a double feature, and just roll 1 and 2 together. Absolutely. Bob, also silly question. How many boxes of Halloween Deuce do you own?
Currently, I only own it on Blu-ray. My 4K is in the mail. Should be here in a week or two. Yeah, I've seen this movie a handful of times. I definitely recommend watching it. It's awesome how the movies sort of dovetail. They take place on the same night. Like Justin said, it's a great double feature. If you enjoy the first movie, you're gonna enjoy the second movie. Hard recommend. Randu, how do you do?
Yeah, I've seen this movie. It had been some time before I would watch it again for this viewing. And yeah, I would recommend it. Certainly. I think it's certainly a slasher. It's important to the legacy of the most important slasher legacy. You know what I mean? And in Hollywood. But to me, I would actually disagree. I don't think it's a good double feature. I know a lot of people think so. I know that's a minority opinion. I know that the hate mail's already starting to be written, but that's just how I feel about it. Please don't take that shit personal.
Dear Randu, fuck you.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting that.
Well, actually, no, I will wait till we
I'll
get
to it. I will explain that, but I want to hurry this along. So,
all right, sounds
recommended,
like
but yeah,
a pretty solid recommend from the Straight Chilling crew, except for Randu, who hates all of you. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Carpenter. Halloween 2.
You got that plot synopsis?
I got it. Full plot
Speed run part 2.
Here we go. Halloween 2 picks up on Halloween night 1978, right where the first film leaves off. Michael wanders through the streets of Haddonfield. He steals a butcher's knife from a nice old lady making ham, Sammys, and her old lady jammies. He kills a teenager next door. Laurie Strode is then admitted to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital for the injuries she sustained from the previous film. There's a drunk-ass doctor by the name of Dr. Mixter who ends up giving her the wrong and or too much medication. Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Brackett continue the manhunt. Loomis mistakes a masked teenager named Ben Tramer to be Michael Myers, which then results in Ben being hit by a car and burned to death. Upon learning of his daughter's death, Sheriff Brackett abandons Loomis to be replaced by Deputy Gary Hunt. Michael hears news about Laurie being admitted to the hospital, so he heads that way. Once he arrives, he disables all the cars, cuts the phone lines, kills several nurses and doctors over the course of the night. Asleep in her hospital bed, Laurie dreams about how she was adopted and how she visited a young boy named Michael in a sanitarium. Loomis gets word Michael broke into the elementary school, so he investigates and finds the word Samhain written on the chalkboard, connecting Michael to the occult. Loomis's colleague, Marion Chambers, arrives with a marshal to take Loomis back to Smith's Grove Sanitarium under governor's orders. On the way, she tells him Laurie is Michael's younger sister. She was put up for adoption after the death of her parents. Loomis then forces the marshal at gunpoint to take him back to Haddonfield. Meanwhile, Laurie is being stalked all over the hospital. She manages to escape, get outside into a car. However, she cannot leave because the car won't start. Loomis then shows up, shoots Michael several times. Michael awakens and cuts the marshal's throat with a scalpel. Loomis and Laurie run into an operating room, and he gives her the marshal's gun before being stabbed. Laurie shoots Michael in both eyes, blinding him. As Michael staggers around, they fill the room with flammable gas. Loomis tells Laurie to run before he ignites the gas, setting himself and Michael on fire. Michael emerges from the flames, but finally falls down. The next morning, Laurie is transferred to another hospital. Roll credits. There you go. Halloween Deuce. Randy, why do you why would you say this is not a great
Why do you hate America?
A great double feature. I'm curious.
Why did you bang all our listeners' mothers this past week, Randy?
In their
So
asses.
I'm gonna be just like honestly, I want to start this by saying I don't hate this movie. It's not a bad slasher movie. It's not a bad Halloween franchise movie, but I have a lot of qualms with it. To me, this movie is the first in a long legacy of Halloween movie cash grabs. And I think that's pretty evident from the production story behind this, but it's also pretty evident from a lot of the decisions made. For me, this movie, like watching this as a double feature does not make sense to me because the pacing of this movie just sucks a lot. It sucks a whole lot. And the like to go from like the razor's edge, like edge of your seat sort of thing in the first movie to then slowing down to a snail's crawl, interspersed by like random and sudden and just completely over too quick bouts of action. It just doesn't work for me, man. Like the fucking watching Ben Tramer's ass get blowed the fuck up by a cop car that is going 90 in a suburban area and exploding with the power of a fucking room full of nitrous, like seen in the end of the movie. It that just suddenly happens after like just riding around with Loomis and a cop for like 10 minutes. It just feels like, and then we spend forever in the hospital watching people bang, watching people talk about getting banged, watching people getting shamed for wanting to get banged. And then having one kid with a razor blade in his mouth, which was kind of awesome. So I don't know, man. The pacing sucks.
I want to piggyback off of some of the points you're making there, Randy, in that I do really enjoy this movie, but I do think it is a very notable step down from the original film. Mm-hmm. And I think a large portion of that has to do with the writing, in that John Carpenter ended up writing this movie, and also he did the music for it, but he did not want to direct it. He went on record saying like he sat down to write this movie. He didn't really want to write it because he didn't think there was any story left. So he was just drinking beer, like asking himself what the fuck he was doing, and he didn't know. So this was what was happening while this movie is being written. And I think this movie falls short in a lot of ways, primarily because the plot kind of sucks. There's a lot of like critical points happening throughout this movie just out of convenience, out of pure plot convenience, not because it's quality writing. You have to have something happen, so you make something very convenient so that the plot can progress. Yeah. There's like this, I don't know, there's a lot that we can get into. So Ben Tramer being blown up which doesn't really make any sense. Also, like Laurie getting dosed by the drunk ass doctor and making it to where she can sometimes not even respond, and other times it has the ability to literally shoot out both of Michael Myers' eyes. Like it's so like how is that really jiving at all? Also, like Marion Chambers' character, I like that character came back to be in this movie, but so in the previous film, which her character is seen the day before chronologically and has essentially no real knowledge of Michael Myers. And in this movie, she returns and has access to this top secret file that's been sealed and put away, and like Loomis doesn't even know about it. Yeah. So like, why is she trusted with this document to return to bring Loomis back with a U.S. fucking marshal? Like, she's just like a nurse who doesn't know who fucking Michael Myers really even is. Like, there's just a lot of like weird plot conveniences that happen in this movie that are kind of distracting. So I just wanted to get all that off my chest real quick.
Damn, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Let me jump in here a little bit. I'm surprised by both of these reactions because, and one thing we didn't, I guess, necessarily pose in the first one, which we need to talk about now, is okay. So Carpenter's sitting down and he's saying like, "There's no story left for me to tell," and he's kind of begrudgingly writing this sequel because it was so successful. But he's the motherfucker who set that shit up, and I thought, now here was my impression in the first movie, he literally sets it up where it ends like with the stinger, like, oh, Michael Myers, he's not there. He's not, he's not caught and escapes again. He's literally like not fucking there. And Carpenter said that his original intention when doing Halloween is he wanted to do like 2 movies that focused on Halloween night and do an anthology where each one kind of had 2 films attached to it and then kind of keep moving on. So what the fuck is he talking about? He didn't have any more intentions to do it. I thought I was under the impression that he wanted to do a Halloween anthology where each entry had 2 movies attached to it. That was my impression.
I never read that anywhere. I thought it was just one-offs is what he wanted to do.
Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe I was okay. So why the fuck did he end his first movie then with a stinger clearly setting up like, oh shit, he's not even caught or killed or like fake killed or anything. He's literally gone.
I think it's only setting it up in our modern sensibilities. Like we see that. Yeah. Were you going to say that, Bob? You go ahead. You got a better beat on it.
No, I was going to say like he ends the movie the way he does with like zooming in with all of these areas throughout Haddonfield that Michael has been previously to make you wonder like, oh my God, he's omnipresent. Evil could potentially be anywhere. I got to, look over my shoulder on my way home because it's super spooky. But like, yeah, in our modern sensibility, watching all of these like Marvel movies that set up the next movie, you're like, oh, okay, it's a cliffhanger to make
even slashers.
More money. That's totally true. Yeah,
I mean that set the precedent for slashers. Like this movie, I don't think that the that's why I feel like this is a cash grab of the First Order because I don't think that there was really an intention to continue this story. Like Bob said, I don't feel like there was. I think that was an artistic choice to say like, oh, like it's not over. Oh shit. And a pit in your stomach drops at the end. You're like, oh no, it's really not over. But you don't get like full resolution. You just get like, there's a madman still on the loose somewhere. And it's not about being brothers or sisters or any of that shit. It's just a madman gets away because maybe pure evil does exist. Like to me, I can understand that as an artistic choice, but I could also understand why a producer wanting to make a sequel could be like, well, you got him alive. Let's make another one. And like, of course that's what they do. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. To me, and there's other problems with this movie for me as well. I think John Carpenter did this soundtrack as well.
Yeah, he did.
I don't like it as nearly as much. I think it's a significant downgrade personally. It sounds so goddamn high pitched and annoying to me.
I actually
from the jump.
I really fucking dig it still, to be honest with you. But it does make like a very noticeable change where like the theme goes from like being driven by a piano to being driven by a synth. So it does sound different and like probably less pleasing to the ear. But I really like the change, to be honest with you. I thought it was solid. I don't know. Do you have any opinions about the change in the score?
I didn't notice it as much as you. Honestly, I wasn't paying as much attention. And honestly, I'm going to jump in on something else you talked about. I didn't have a problem with. So I do have problems with this film. I don't want to just keep, riding high on it. And I'm going to jump in those. But the pacing of this film to me It's not quite on set like with the first one, because I like that they jump right back into it. I think that was a brilliant decision, and why I always watch them back to back, because it's the same night. It literally picks back up where we left off. I love that. And so of course, when you're picking right back up, you gotta, kind of keep up that energy a little bit, which is just, what you got to do when that's where you're going to start your movie. But then, it kind of goes back to where it starts to establish some things again, which we saw in the first film. So in the first film, we get our little sequence where it's this kid and he's killing, and there's a lot of tension. But then, there's a lot of watching him drive around town and watching him stand behind walls, where I feel, we go to the hospital and we establish Laurie a little bit stronger. Loomis and them are on the hunt, we get the Ben Tramer thing, which is, a little wild, but I don't feel like it's like that different. And then once stuff starts popping up in the hospital, I feel like it's fairly like consistent, like what's going on. He's stalking, he's in these different places, he's getting his kills on, and I feel like it moves. I feel like the hospital sequence, once Michael gets there and it starts moving in that way, is very similar to the first movie, where once he starts getting in with the teens, I feel like it moves in a very similar way to it in that regard. So I don't have a problem with the pacing personally.
I have a problem with it. I have a problem with it. Sorry, Bob, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with the pacing of this movie, but I do want to add, so like Rick Rosenthal, who was the director of this movie, shot his first cut of it, and was apparently the original cut was a little bit more true to the pacing of the original Halloween. You can definitely tell like the way this movie was shot was very much trying to pay homage to the original, and the pacing of it was that way as well. But I guess like in hindsight, over the course of 3 years that progressed since the original Halloween came out, Carpenter watched the first cut of this movie and said, quote, "It just was not scary." I guess he felt like he had to keep up with the other slashers that were trying to one up his original movie. So he ended up going back and doing some reshoots for this movie, even though he didn't want to direct it, and added in a lot of like gore. I think the opening sequence where he like steals the knife and kills the teenage girl or whatever in her house, I think that was a Carpenter sequence. Anyway, he just added some more gore and made it more of like a modern slasher of the day. And Rosenthal was like really fucking pissed off about it, because he just kind of like, he's like, "There's no way I'm directing this movie." And he was like, "Well, you suck, so I guess I got to direct something, right?" It's just kind of like not the way you want to go about it. But that might speak to Randy saying like it's just not quite the same. And I think that was fully intentional. Shockingly, on Carpenter's part, that was intentional. Come to find out.
Well, whatever the intention was behind it, and the thing is, like, I will step back and say it's not. I said it sucks, but that was an overstatement. It's just not nearly as good. And that's why I watched this for the first time. This is the first time I've watched them back to back. And it was truly a downgrade in that sense for me, because to me, it doesn't keep the action up. It has a it basically starts from square one. And I don't know if you call it homage or mimicry. The tone, the pacing to me starts from square one with like Loomis riding around. He's a little more frantic, but that's about it. And there's this long fucking scene of him having a fucking confidential conversation in front of a wall of reporters that just drove me fucking bananas, and shit like that is just happening. And then you get just little quick actions like Ben Tramer getting blown up just to do it. Has nothing to do with Michael Myers. There's not nearly as much Michael Myers stalking in this movie. And you were talking about Soju, like seeing him in the shadows, seeing him in the bushes, but that works because it's a man stalking teenagers. In this movie, I don't see half of that as much as I see fucking just random happenstance killing people at the beginning. Anyway, when it does kick off for real, when the climax really kicks off, I do like this movie, especially those scenes. I really like those scenes. I think they're really great. Jamie Lee does a great job in this movie for what she's given, but like the pacing getting to that point is a fucking slog for me. And they do a lot more kills, which makes it mind blowing. And some of the kills are more inventive. So like individually, I kind of like some of those kills. can't tell you the name of any one of those fucking nurses. It seems like there's just an endless parade of nurses ready to show their tits and die. And that's like, feels very much
just
like
one.
Yeah, there's just one.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Well, a lot of them ready to that are just getting capped off or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, that's the way that slashers go at that time, but it seems like such a downgrade to me because I got to know PJ Souls a little bit. I got to know Annie a little bit. I didn't really feel like I knew like fucking, there was like one, like the cooter who bangs in a therapy tub and his name is Bud. Nurse. Bud, thank you. There's Jimmy, who is weirdly attracted to a traumatized near murder victim, and then just slips and falls and knocks himself out for half of the action of the movie, and then disappears for the most part. Like, there's just a lot of like fluff and unnecessary shit going on in this movie that doesn't feel like slice of life like it does in the first movie. It feels like padding.
There is a sequence where I believe it's Karen, who is one of the nurses, is actually like riding around, hanging out with her friend on Halloween, dressed up in costume.
Yeah.
And her friend's like, "Oh, you got to take me home." She's like, "Well, I'm going to be fucking late for work." And they're like bitching about it. So you like get to see them outside of work, and then you get to see her arrive late from work. And then Bud is being a super creep, and he's all like, sit on my face, etc. He just like ad-libs this weird song that's like, I don't know, about eating this chick's vagina out, which is uncomfortable. I don't know. So I mean, you get to see them a little bit.
Simply evil.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they were equally replaced, right? Like, okay, we had two teens, Annie and the other girl. Like,
yeah,
we had there's a higher body count in this movie.
True. You get Jimmy and Bud like in the ambulance taking Laurie to the hospital. You get to see them a little bit. You get like a sense of the drunk ass doctor who was like at a party and they called him in to like have a look at Jamie Lee Curtis. Miss Alves, she's the one that's like running Jimmy off, because he's like bothering Laurie when she's trying to recover, and she's sort of like the no nonsense. Yeah, she's like the no nonsense nurse. I feel like you get a decent sense of these characters.
I like her. I got a sense of her.
Yeah, I think arguably like you don't get as much time with them individually for sure, but I think there's a reason for that because like you don't want to sit through the exact same movie again, or at least I would prefer not to. So like I don't mind that they warp speed it just a little bit, but I mean I still think you get a sense of who these characters are. To be honest, it's not too fast and loose.
Yeah, I think the amount of time. Okay, so in the first movie, Annie, she is the one. Okay, outside of the established one. So you got to do it with the sequel because you've already established Laurie, you've already established Loomis. So in the first movie, you got Loomis, you got Laurie, and then you've got two other teens. Annie, who is really the one we spend the most time with, and then the other girl who we barely spend any time with outside of first scene, like with her boyfriend, and then the opening scene where they're talking about like forgetting their math books or whatever. So in this one, I feel like, okay, you got to replace Annie. And so it's kind of replaced by this goofy guy or whatever who's like digging on Laurie. And then, you replace the other teen with the old Bud the Chud and his girl. And then you've got, one of the downfalls of just sequels in general is, you've got a couple extra fodder. So maybe you got the no nonsense nurse, but she could stand in for, the sheriff in the first one. And so like, I don't feel like
Sheriff's in this one.
Yeah, he is. I just I don't feel like it's so different. I feel I know just enough about Bud the Chud as I do the girl with the pigtails, honestly.
I mean, that's fair. To me, it just feels like as opposed to the first one didn't feel like a slaughtering line. And this one did. This one to me felt like the first instance of red shirts in the franchise, people that were there purely to die. Whereas in the first one, it felt like, again, matters of convenience, matters of where Michael happens to be, and yeah, there's an element of that. It's not like they like did this intentionally. I just don't think, I think there were more character. This feels more like staged. It doesn't feel to me like the most effective thing about the first one that I mentioned before is the grounding. It doesn't feel as grounded. It feels like things just kind of happen a lot of the time. And then you have some characters that you get some very baseline knowledge of. And that's standard for slashers at this time, or certainly leading into this, like later in this time. And it's like, I don't know, it starts to feel more like, all right, we need to have I want to have a kill that does this. I want to have a kill that does this. And then we also spend so much time in the goddamn hospital, and every scene looks the same for a long time. I don't know. Even Alvis, who is, I think, a distinctive character compared to others, even like, I don't understand like Jimmy gives me the creeps a little bit. Bud gives me the creeps, but kind of in just a standard cooter way, which is fine. Yeah. You know, we need every franchise needs at least one. I don't know. You get to know him better than Bob. I'll give you that in the first one. Yeah. Like you get to know him better than that, but you don't get to know him I don't feel like I know him as well as I know even Tommy Doyle, really. Like I feel like because those characters just feel like, with what little they have to say, it feels like something a person would say. I don't have any, like, I don't know, the idea, the argument about whether or not, like, do I take her home? Am I going to be late for work? And then later following that up, like, I get what they're doing. I get that that's trying to be slice of life, but it really does feel like padding to me. It does not feel like there's and the other thing that happens in that scene is Michael Myers just like walks into a kid with a boombox and then turns a corner. They spend fucking like a full 2 minutes or something in that scene.
So that seems like it doesn't mean anything, but it actually adds to the plot, because that kid is for some reason listening to a news story while he's running through the streets with his boombox, and that's when Michael hears that like Laurie Strode was taken to the hospital, and that's how he knows where to go. So like it's just a split second thing, but it actually does add to the plot. And I don't
think he needs that though. Where else is she gonna be?
I dig it. I mean, I don't know, honestly. Maybe he knows, maybe he doesn't, but I dig it.
He could have got it from like I feel like maybe logic. If they wanted, he could have got it from the girl saying like, oh, I gotta go home, or I gotta go to work. I mean, she's already in the streets. You don't necessarily need an extra scene with a kid blasting news on his boombox. But
in this movie, it makes sense because he is after Laurie, as we come to find out, because they're related. So like,
okay. So that's where I'm gonna start to critique this movie. I feel like I'm kind of having to hold up a little bit.
I don't mean to put you in that position.
We can trade. We can trade.
It's okay. Well, what I was gonna say is where this movie should have gone, and where you gotta knock Carpenter a little bit, is that where Randy was saying, you know, it's about the convenience and stuff. I still don't have a problem with Michael Myers going to the hospital and even the way it plays out, because honestly, we talked about the way he's scheming in the first one, and the way things play out in the hospital honestly kind of makes sense to me, because if you go from it of an approach, like take out the sister bullshit, but of him, like the one that kind of got away, it needs to feel complete. He's doing this ritual on Halloween night and he's after her as a target. Well, he goes to the hospital and he takes precautions. He makes sure she can't get away by cutting all the tires. He takes out all the men first. So he takes out the security guard, he takes out the communications, and then he takes out Bud the Chud next or whatever. And then he just start picking off the nurses to essentially get to Laurie. So all that I don't have a problem with. And what that should have been the focus. It's so easy to make a sequel out of that motivation, where I fucking hate this movie like to a cringe-worthy degree, is anything like literally any of the scenes surrounding Laurie being his sister and adding this like element to Michael Myers sucks. So like there's a flashback scene. That scene, I hate that scene. Where they go to the school and Sam Hain is written on the wall, and then there's this drawing with the kid with the knife. That is terrible.
What kills me about that is how they mispronounce Samhain. Continue.
Oh, I thought Sam Hain.
No, it's pronounced Samhain.
They mispronounce it in the movie too. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I just wrote it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is how it's spelled, but not pronounced.
It's just pronounced.
Yeah.
I see. It's not, but that's how they pronounce it in the movie, right?
And it's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So really like you said before, the nurse, I do like that she comes back too, and we're going to see her again in H2O, which is pretty dope. This is like her trilogy.
And in Halloween Kills, by the way.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So anyways, I like that. I don't like that. this whole sister thing is so unnecessary and is the biggest crack in this entire franchise. It fucks up so much and it's so unnecessary. But I don't have a problem with the logic of him going to the hospital and what he does at the hospital. And I actually like the change of scenery because, like I said, I'm always watching these back to back, and it just makes logical sense. Like Randy said, for her to go to the hospital, and if he's after her, well, then he's going to stalk her in the hospital. And so I don't have a problem with any of that, honestly.
I agree. You could totally write off the whole them being related thing in this movie. It would still work.
There's so many scenes.
I do.
It feels like there's... Sorry, go back.
I want to give a positive. Let me get a positive in there because I do like this movie. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just only railing on it. One thing that they
That's
use
my
this, they use the setting really, really well in this movie. So the majority of this movie takes place at the hospital. And Michael, I don't think he really kills anybody in the hospital with a butcher's knife that I remember. Anyways, I could be wrong about that. But he uses a shitload of items he finds in the hospital. I mean, he drowns a nurse in the therapy tub. I think he actually might cut
Boils her.
Bub's throat.
No, does he? I thought he choked him.
I thought he fucked him to death.
But he boils. He boils the nurse in the therapy tub. He stabs a couple different people with needles and injects air into their fucking brains. He bleeds out Miss Owls with an IV tube. He cuts people up with a scalpel. And they even use the gas at the end. Michael doesn't, but they use the gas at the end to set Michael on fire. So, I mean, they're using all kinds of shit you'd find in a hospital. I thought that was
they're being more creative.
Solid,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I would agree. I want to point out the two kills that really not blew my mind, but really made me that I'm like, yeah, those are great kills. Those are undeniably great kills. Are the therapy room hot tub, even though that's such a gross scene in so many ways.
The fingers suck.
I wrote, I need me a therapy. Yeah, Mikey gets his finger sucked.
That apparently was improv. That was not written. That just happened.
Dick Warlock is like, hell yeah. Good day at work today.
I guess.
Anyway, but yeah, I just love it doesn't make any sense because that shit is not unless it's literally boiling and not just has jets in it. It's not going to burn your face off. So just drowning her would have been fine.
I will say on the gauge when he's turning the temperature up, there's a portion in red that just says the word scalding. Why would that be a possibility?
Maybe I don't know. I
thought it was just it's heated by gas and he just turns it all the way up and it's like a warning gauge. Like, hey, this is you need to fucking turn the gas down.
You need
to me, it's that's
put a new regulator on that shit. Go ahead. Sorry.
I like that kill. But I like it in the same way I like Michael Jason Voorhees slamming a kid in a sleeping bag against a tree. I like it because it's ridiculous, not because it's scary. And that's kind of the key difference between this movie and the last one is I don't find this movie scary in the slightest. I don't find it full of tension. I find it to be a slog until the action hits, and then it's a few seconds of maybe some enjoyment, or else maybe it's the fucking security guard kill, which just takes forever and is lame, in my opinion.
Actually, that one is pretty lame because he just gets a hammer to the face, right?
And it's the cat scare joke. Jokes. The cat scare joke is funny, and I'm glad it exists for that reason, but I don't it doesn't enhance the movie at all. But the other good kill that I wanted to mention that I really loved that you mentioned already, Bob, is the kill in the doctor, the drunk doctor, and the nurse that comes to get him. That scene rules because it does uses lighting impeccably, like Justin was saying about the first movie. That's the one scene where I'm totally in favor of that because he comes out of the shadows so perfectly. It's also probably my favorite Michael Myers mask in the whole franchise. It just looks fucking great in my opinion. It just looks just weathered enough, you know what I mean? It just it gets so much worse from there.
Apparently that's the same mask from the first
I know but it's just gritty. The grittiness added so much. But I love the kill of with the syringe in the eye or whatever, and just the way he comes out of the shadows. That's an A+ kill, no question. So those are some positives.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and even the scalpel kind of to the chick's back, and he's lifting her up. It's pretty brutal. I will say though, the shooting the eyes out of the end, that shit's pretty stupid.
Yes, absolutely.
She
got him in the eye in the first one with a hanger. that, like, just stab him, hit him in the eye.
Also, you can't shoot someone's eyes out and not kill them.
Well, he's not human as we'd come to assume anyway.
Well, he should.
Well, what is he, Bob?
But pure evil.
Purely and simply evil.
And him, well, also, too, you just got your goddamn eye shut out and he's just like stumbling around the room. That shit
He's
is
just following
dumb.
sounds like an animal all of a sudden.
I do. So I like the visual of his eyes bleeding. That's
Me
cool.
too.
However, like Laurie being
not
able
earned.
to do that is complete nonsense. It doesn't make it. There's no way in hell she
drugged.
could do it. Even if she was like not, she could. Like, has she ever fired a gun in her
Unless-
life? We don't know. She's a teenager. But also,
Not established, yeah.
also, something I kind of hate about that scene is like how Michael is holding his face while he's slashing, like, just around the room. Like, I don't like seeing that he's like feeling pain and he's like holding his face. I don't know. That bothered me a little bit. I didn't like that motion, I guess. I thought that was kind of a bad choice. I don't. They could
Yeah,
just
at least like stab his eyes out.
yeah.
I know. If he
Yeah.
had stabbed, I would not have an argument here. I would be fine with it. It looked awesome after the shots, but it doesn't
Yeah,
make
the
any
blood
goddamn
is
sense.
cool. Yeah,
in any
but
level.
I agree. He shouldn't be. Yeah, it's super weak. I don't. Yeah, that is a.
He's not
the whole
fucking
scene to
Superman.
me is a bad way for him to go out, regardless of what's going to happen or if there's going to be
I don't know.
like.
Sorry.
I like the explosion. That's fine, but it's all just so foolish. And like Bob said, where he's grabbing the eyes and stuff, all that combined just is a bit of a down note to end on for me personally.
I don't know. I think that I like the explosion. I like that Loomis sacrifices himself to do this. Those things I like, but everything that gets them to that point feels very forced to get them to that point. And that's what makes it feel like not scary. It feels not like a sequence of events. It feels like a beginning and a conclusion and then a bridge between those things. And that's where a lot of slashers go. That's what a lot of slashers of that era and like into the 80s and 90s do. And it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel scary. It doesn't feel earned in the same way. And then, okay, like additionally, I want to talk about Jimmy real quick. Jimmy is the most nothing character ever. This is Jimmy's.
That's fair.
Like, he starts by being a little creepy, and then he's just like, you're like, okay, well, maybe he's going to help her, but he accomplishes nothing and actively harms her position. When she is successfully hiding from Michael Myers in a car, he brings his concussed ass head out and just slams it into the fucking horn of that car.
Happens in the first one too. I hate how
But she's not there. It's not a plot point to get Michael Myers to her. Like,
it's true.
It's so contrived feeling.
I don't like how the reason Jimmy's concussed is because he just slips in blood and that's it.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of lame. Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, he
It's
really,
like,
as
it's
a
hilariously
character,
lame.
doesn't do anything.
yeah. Other than
I wanted
creep on
him to
Laurie.
be a good character, but yeah, he's a creep, and then he slips and gets concussed, and then almost gets her killed. That's the story arc of Jimmy.
Yeah, that when she's so I'm sort of two minds of this whole like car sequence where she's like crawling towards Loomis as he's about to enter the hospital, and she can't like muster the energy to yell out like, "Hey, don't go in there! Michael's in there! You're gonna die!" And like it builds a lot of tension and like it's shot really well and like you feel her struggle in that moment, and I was like, wow, that's really fucking cool. You know, she's drugged up, she can't save this dude who is going way out of his way to save her. But then as soon as he enters the hospital, she's like up and running, banging on the door, screaming full volume, and it's just like, well, what the fuck? Like what? How,
And then
where does she get this energy from all of a sudden? It's kind of lazy writing.
it is. And then additionally to that, just to add to the silliness factor, Michael Myers just bursts through the fucking door like the Kool-Aid man. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, when did this? He had trouble getting through a fucking closet door, a slatted closet door in the last one. It was a major plot point or moment in the movie. And in this one, he just walks through plate glass and metal like it's fucking nothing.
That's a
And it's like, this is the
critique.
Terminator now.
I also kind of love that moment though, like just because
I like it because it's funny, but it's not scary. And to me, like everybody says, this is just more Halloween 1. It's Halloween 2 is just more Halloween 1, and I just can't agree with that at all.
It's a little different. It is different. I agree with you, man. Yeah,
Not just
And it's
different, but
different.
also
It's lesser.
inferior.
It is.
I mean, it is, but I feel like, I don't know. I really enjoy watching these back to back, and to the point where, like Bob said, it can't be the exact same movie. It can't be paced the exact same way. You can't have the exact same character. So most sequels are going to be inferior in some way, with that, like being, just a kind of general understood with very few exceptions. Mm-hmm. I think this one, starting from the same place with essentially the core characters and just moving it to a new location on the same night, I feel like it accomplishes a lot in just keeping the general vibe alive. But I agree, like, it is inferior, and the plot points that they add, just like, I don't know why they add those plot points. It's a detriment for sure. But some of the things that you have like big problems with, like the kind of red shirts, which like I just don't feel that they're that different. Like, they are slightly and in a slightly lesser way, but I mean, the teens in the beginning, they weren't anything to write home about, like Annie and the pigtail girl and Bob, like they're obviously red shirts too. And the pigtail girl and Bob like are almost nothing as well. Bob, and they're just kind of there to fuck.
Bob's got that fuck wagon, the worst character that I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah. Like I
will not argue with Bob. Bob feels like a lot of the characters in this movie. I'll agree with that. I just feel like those characters feel more like teenage girls than the nurses feel like nurses. They feel more like teenage girls than Bud feels like a paramedic. You know what I mean? They don't feel like real. They don't feel grounded, and therefore the terror aspect, the fear, the apprehension is gone for me. And all I have left are these brief moments of action that sometimes work and sometimes don't, and then long slogs to get there.
Yeah.
I never feel like this movie is a slog. I never feel bored with it, to be honest with you. It's a step down, but I'm not bored with this movie. I'm really not. I feel like it's relatively tight. I do want to touch on something that we haven't mentioned before, which is the title sequence for this film, where we've got another like close-up shot of the jack-o'-lantern that splits and there's a skull inside of it. Very reminiscent to the original, but also like adds a little bit of like gore right in the opening credit sequence, which I think honestly like gets you hyped and ready for what you're about to see, which is a more gore heavy version of the original. I thought that was kind of a nice touch. And then leading right into him like stealing a butcher's knife and killing a random teenage girl. Like it starts right off with another murder again, similar to the original, but we know who the killer is now, so there's no suspense or reveal, so to speak. I don't know. I dig how this movie starts. I don't think it's a slog necessarily, but it is a noticeable step down from the original, like most sequels kind of are, and in a way a lot of them have to be. They can't all be Empire, so to speak, which not everybody would agree with that, but
okay.
T2, I don't know. T2 might be a better.
Yeah, Terminator 2 is the one that always pops out as just like being superior.
Yeah.
Just like straight up.
Well, I mean, I love the first Terminator 2, but that's a whole different conversation.
You love the first Terminator 2?
I love Terminator 2 and the first Terminator.
I know.
Well. This is also the introduction of the song Mr. Sandman. Like, so the movie opens with it, and then also ends with it, and then it shows up in the next movie we're talking about as well. So it becomes kind of a theme in a way, which I don't necessarily love, to be honest with you. I'm not sure really why that's a choice that was made, but it was. It's fine.
I'm indifferent.
I kind of do associate it now, but when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, why does that? Because there's that other song, especially playing off the first one, the "Have you heard the boogeyman" or whatever. Ba, 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 ba. Hush, 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 here comes the boogeyman. You know that song?
It's like an old song, the 20s?
Yeah. Like exactly. If you're going to do an old timey song like that, now Samming is not as old as that, but if you're going to do an old timey song,
I always think of "Don't Fear the Reaper." That's what reminds me of Halloween.
That's true too.
Well, yeah, I would just say make it about the boogeyman, like not the Sandman.
That would make more sense. Yeah,
I don't have a big problem with it. I think any of those songs work fine. Honestly, I'm not too bothered by that.
It doesn't bother me too much, but it's just like it's weird. Like when you start to think about it.
Yeah, like why? Why?
The one teenager at the beginning, I have some notes on this movie. The one teenager at the beginning said something along the lines of, "Yeah, I guess my neighbor decided to beat his wife," and just laughs it off with her friend.
I did notice
that was kind of funny.
Yeah, like
he's always
crazy old
beating his wife.
He's the killer. That's to be expected. No big deal. You know.
Yeah. I also love the razor blade kid in this movie. Just like that's such a non sequitur. It doesn't really. I guess it's just to tie to the hospital a little more.
And also Halloween.
I just think that the visual of exactly. Yeah, it's exactly.
Wait,
what?
Like, it's a nice what razor blade kid are you talking about?
The kid with the razor blade in his tongue.
His little kid in the pirate costume. The hospital towards the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, bleeding out of his mouth. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a nice touch. Nice touch.
That's a really quick and easy way to establish more Halloweeny goodness and also get you to the hospital.
Yeah, I thought
that was fine. Yeah, and I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
anything else you guys want to
wrap this up?
Yeah. We gotta rate this bad boy. Let's just do it. If you got any other points, mention them in your wrap up here. Randu, why don't you kick us off? Out of 5, how do you feel about Halloween 2?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to give the impression that this movie is some irredeemable piece of trash in my eyes. I just don't have the same affinity that it seems like most people do. It seems like at least you guys do. You guys seem to love it as a direct, immediate return to Haddonfield right after the viewing of the first movie. And I think it suffers from doing that, honestly. And the thing is, like, I disagree with Rob. I think this movie has a lot of moments that are very boring to me. They just don't work for me. There's no tension in it for me. I don't know. Like, and then there's a lot of like really hokey scares. Like there's this one scene where the nurse pulls up to the hospital, gets out of the car, shuts the car door, and Michael Myers' face is in the rear view, and it goes, bah! And it's like a really terrible stinger, which is sad considering the amazing stinger we just talked about in the first movie. It just seems like they just fucked it up, honestly. It seems like it seems like this is leaning more towards the style of slasher that became in vogue, which is the Freddy Krueger playing with your food to an extreme degree, laughter first, scare later, sort of slasher thing. And there's a place for that, certainly, but like especially after like viewing it back to back, it just feels like such a downgrade, such a miss. And I don't expect this movie to be as good as the original, but it just feels like it's pulling in all the wrong directions for me. I don't think that like a horror movie that's boring is a mistake. Like it's just not good for me. There's so many scenes that I feel like could be excised. You don't need to have this whole scene with the security guard like they did in the first one and have it implied off screen that he dies. You don't need so many kills. Like you don't need to kill both the doctor and the nurse that comes to get him with the same syringe method or whatever. Even though I love the way they shot that scene and the look of that scene, like I don't know. There's a lot of things that just feel very padded, very very padded, and the characters to me in this movie that they kill have less time to get fleshed out, which I can understand, but is not. It's just not as compelling. It doesn't feel like they don't feel like real nurses the way that those kids felt like real kids, and so it feels more staged and. Just silly things happen in this movie. Things explode that shouldn't explode. Fucking reporters are just standing there in a wall, listening to a man talk about having shot 6 rounds into a guy. And they don't think to walk away or step into a fucking cop car to have this conversation. Just shit like that, man. I just don't like it. I don't like a lot about it, or I don't like those things about it. But there's a lot to like. I love the mask. I love some of the kills on their own. I love the razor blade kid. The intro, as much as I'm distracted by the music, which I think is a downgrade, but I do like the title sequence again. There's a lot to like, and there's a lot to deride. A lot more than I would have even admitted a few years ago as being a big fanboy of this franchise. I feel like I'm coming to terms with a lot of more flaws of this movie as I've gotten more privy to what filmmaking entails in this genre. So to me, it's a 3.
All right. A 3 from Randu. I'm going to slide in here real quick. Just something I forgot to mention while we were reviewing this movie. Did you guys know that Dana Carvey is in this movie for roughly 45 seconds?
I did.
Who's that?
I did.
Dana Carvey, the comedian from Saturday Night Live.
Garth?
Yeah,
from
Garth
Wayne's
from
World.
Wayne's World. Yeah.
Oh,
The master of disguise.
who is he?
He's
Church lady.
Yeah, he's working with one of the reporters towards the beginning of the movie. There's this female reporter talking to him, and she's like, "Yeah, make sure go around, get statements from everybody. Just make sure you get him to sign off if you get a statement from him." And he just walks off, and that's it. He doesn't say anything. You just see the side of his face. I thought that was hilarious that Dana Carvey is actually in this movie for a second. Anyway,
It's Mike. He works with both Mike Myers.
Mike Myers is, yeah.
Purely and simply evil.
I dig this movie overall. There's definitely some issues with the plot that I already mentioned. I really dig the updated score. The synth version of the score I think is really nice. I dig the setting of the hospital. I thought that was a really smart, logical choice, and I dig how they use the setting in a way that suits the murders and adds a lot of tension throughout the course of the movie. I dig the characters, and I dig that we don't spend too much time with the characters, because essentially this is a continuation of the first movie. You could watch both of these movies back to back as one movie, as we've discussed, and that makes sense. I think a lot of people probably do that. So I mean, I don't want to like wait for an hour before the action starts again, like we do on the first movie. I don't know. It just kind of makes sense to me that it'll pick up and like keep rolling. I love Ham Lady at the beginning of the movie. Shouts outs to Ham Lady. She doesn't get enough love, I don't think. The ending with the bleeding eyes is like such a dope visual, but it's just complete nonsense that Laurie would be able to do that. It doesn't make any sense. There's a really, really dope fire stunt where Michael emerges from the flames on fire, and then you get like a nice close-up shot of his mask burning. I think that's a really cool visual and a neat way to theoretically end the story of Michael Myers like it was supposed to have done. Obviously, that's not the case. I don't know. Overall, I dig this movie. It's going to land a solid 4 out of 5 from myself, though. Juice, how do you feel about Halloween 2?
Yeah, I was just checking my scores from last year's extravaganza because I remember liking Halloween 4 a lot. But in my opinion, this is the best Halloween sequel. As I said, every year I watch Halloween, I have to watch this one, and I do them back to back. I do think it suffers from being a sequel. It's definitely inferior to the original. I like the opening credits with the skull. I like the change of setting, but keeping a lot of the core characters. I like a lot of the new, interesting, creative kind of kills. I do not like the family aspect. There's no need for her to be the sister. There's no need to add in those complexities of like, why did he break into the school? Why did he draw this picture? Why is, Laurie having these flashbacks all of a sudden? Why is this nurse tied to this? Why does the governor give a shit about keeping something secret about Michael Myers? Like, it's also stupid. And it's the biggest detriment. And it is a huge crack in just this overall franchise and drives it to a really bad place, unfortunately. But I don't know. I like one thing that we didn't talk about. I like how Loomis just like starts to ramp up, and he pulls a gun on the sheriff. But I also like, not a sheriff, whatever that guy is, but I like his reaction where he's just like, fuck it. I mean, what am I going to do? I got a gun pulled on me. Like, I don't know. I love that dude's reaction where he's just like, well, all right, here we go. That's just kind of I don't know. And then he's all about helping out, but then gets murked. I really like this movie. The ending it definitely does end kind of on a flat note, unfortunately. But overall, I also too am going to give this a 4 out of 5. And one more note, this another good thing kind of, I guess, about this movie is the inspiration from this was by far the best thing about any of the Rob Zombie films, because he starts his second movie off like it's going to be this movie, and it's like dope. It's the best part of 1 or 2 of the Rob Zombie films. So unfortunately, he kind of shot that out after the fact. But anyways, 4 out of 5 for me.
Juice, is that considering the Yabos?
Oh shit! No, we're there. Oh, in the pool. So no, all right. I'll give it a half star. Thanks, Bob, for keeping me straight. Half star for Yabos. Ooh, 4.5. Good lord, that's fine though. I'm fine with that.
All right, with Justin's 4.5, that's going to put our aggregate at a 3.8. Let's jump over into a Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Halloween 2.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, no wasting time on the rules this time. You guys know how this goes. Let's start with the critics score. There are 61 reviews on this movie. We'll start. I think we start with Juice the first last time, so we'll start with Bob today on this one. Where do you think the critics are landing on this?
I'm going to go with an 85, please.
85% for Bob. Soju, where are you at with this?
I think it's going to be slightly lower, so I'll give it a 78.
78. Year of our Lord that Halloween 1 came out.
Yeah.
All right. It is. I'm sorry, there were 42 reviews. I had the wrong tab open. It's a 31%.
Oh,
31%.
Jesus. No.
Wow.
31. No, God. Why?
God, why would you do this to me? That is shockingly low.
Agree.
I was pretty surprised by that too, but then I started thinking about it, and considering my opinion of it, I think that critics being mean to this movie makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Audience, let's go to the audience score and then I'll get to the critics consensus. The audience score has 50,000 plus ratings, so significantly more. Juice will start with you for this one. Where are you at?
This is going to be. I'm going to take the straight chillin' special on this one with the 69, please.
Ooh,
69.
69 dudes.
Good call. Bob, how about you?
I'll take a 70.
Ooh, $1, Bob. So the comedy number is going to take this one. It's 63% positive, which I think is more in line with certainly the fans' reactions to this, or certainly the general movie-going audience. I think that's in line.
So let's tally up the score real quick. That's 3 hell yeets to the 1 hell skeet.
And that's what's important. Critics consensus.
We're not done here.
This way to win this guessing game, Soju. You're really nailing it. Critics consensus. Halloween 2 picks up where its predecessor left off and quickly wanders into a dead end that the franchise would spend decades struggling to find its way out of. I think
fair.
At least in some category, at least if nothing else, in the relationship situation, that's fair.
More to come on that.
Else. Yes, and we talked about Halloween 4, 5, and 6 already in this show. So I mean, we know how deep that fucking trench is.
Ooh, the old thorn.
Yep. So there you go. Let's read a negative review just for the funsies. Let's see what it says. Far bloodier and sillier than its predecessor, Halloween 2 is a warmed over retread of Carpenter's classic original. I don't see any problem with that personally.
Sounds right. All right. Let's go ahead. Jump into some trivia real quick.
It's totally time for trivia.
Alrighty, I got some trivia here for you. Carpenter and Hill, the writers of the first Halloween, had originally considered setting the sequel a few years after events of Halloween. They planned to have Myers track Laurie Strode to her home in a high-rise apartment building. However, the setting was later changed to Haddonfield Hospital in script meetings. Wallace, who went on to direct Halloween 3, stated, "It's our intention to create an anthology out of the series, sort of along the lines of Night Gallery or The Twilight Zone, only a much larger scale, of course." When asked in 1982 what happened to Myers and Loomis, Carpenter flatly answered, "The shape is dead. Pleasence's character is dead too, unfortunately." Just, they're dead. Move on. Move along.
They did.
Carpenter described that his writing of the screenplay, quote, mainly dealt with a lot of beer sitting in front of a typewriter saying, "What the fuck am I doing? I don't know," which explains a lot.
That's honesty, baby.
Yeah. Upon receiving the script, Yablans was disappointed as he felt it was pedestrian and predictable. The plot twist of Laurie being Michael's sister was initially never planned by Carpenter or Hill, but was conceived, according to Carpenter, purely as a function of having decided to become involved in the sequel to the movie where he didn't think there was any plot or story left. He would later refer to this plotline as silly and foolish, which makes sense. Dean Cundy, the DP of the first film, reprised his role as cinematographer, opting out of shooting Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist as he felt a loyalty to Carpenter and Hill. Halloween executive producer Erwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad invested heavily in the sequel, boasting a much larger budget than its predecessor, $2.5 million compared to $300,000 for the original film. Italian producer Dino De Laurentiis assisted in financing the production as well. What else we got? Rosenthal was not pleased with Carpenter's changes, as I already mentioned. He reported he complained that Carpenter ruined my carefully placed film. Harsh words. The last bit I have here, there was an incident that happened with some minor connections to the film about regarding the potent effects of media violence on young people. On December 7th, 1982, Richard Delmer Boyer of El Monte, California, murdered Francis and Eileen Harbitz. They were an elderly couple in Fullerton, California. Leading to the trial, People v. Boyer. The couple were stabbed 43 times. According to the trial transcript, Boyer's defense was that he suffered from hallucinations in the Harbitz residence brought on by the movie Halloween 2, which the defendant had seen under the influence of PCP, marijuana, and alcohol. The film was played for the jury, and a pharmacologist pointed out various similarities between its scene and the various defendant scene the defendant described. Boyer was found guilty and sentenced to death. The incident became known as the Halloween 2 murders, which was featured in a short segment on TNT's Monster Vision hosted by film critic Joe Bob Briggs. And that's the trivia.
This is all just a way to mention Joe Bob, wasn't it?
It all comes back to Joe Bob in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's fucking stupid, of course.
It is.
Like, if you got murder in you, then no movie is going to bring that out of you any more than just yourself. You're making
also, if you're taking PCP,
yes,
yeah,
that might factor in.
Problem number one is PCP, not Halloween 2. Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
but hey, at least that jury got a free movie.
True. Yeah. Let's move into our third feature of the evening. We are talking about Halloween H2O 20 years later, and we are going to kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
The runtime of Halloween H2O is an hour and 26 minutes, the shortest Halloween movie in history. This was released in 1998. Directed by Steve Miner, was written by Deborah Hill, John Carpenter, Robert Zappia, and like some other folks. We'll get into that as well. Stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Josh Hartnett, Adam Arkin, and LL Cool J. The list goes on and on. Plot synopsis is as follows. Laurie Strode, now the dean of a Northern California private school with an assumed name, must battle the shape one last time. Yeah, quote, one last time, as the life of her own son hangs in the balance. Gentlemen's, not a silly question at all, actually. Had you seen this before, and would you recommend people check it out? Juice, kick us off.
Yeah, actually, I just saw it for the first time. I talked about it on What You've Been Watching maybe a month ago. Not even a month ago, I don't think. It was when I was in quarantine. And it closed out the franchise for me. It was like the last one that I hadn't seen. And I wouldn't particularly recommend this film, especially I would saying like, oh, if you want to finish out kind of a trilogy type of thing. But because this franchise branches so many times, it loses that effect because they have no fucking problem being like, that wasn't real or that's not part of anything. And if you want to continue down that road, you'd also have to watch Resurrection. So I'm not going to continue with that. So I wouldn't particularly recommend this film. I don't think it's very good. It does bring back Laurie, which was the first time that happened since Halloween 2. So if you like her, then I maybe, but generally no, I would not recommend. Booby, how many boxes of this do you have, and would you recommend people check this out?
I only have the Blu-ray of this film. Just one box is enough.
When's the 4K coming in?
I don't think it is coming out.
Is this going to be? Oh man, go on.
This movie is bad. So whenever we did our rundown on YouTube of all 11 movies, it'd been probably a good 4 to 5 years since I'd seen this last, and my memory of it was fairly positive, not through the roof, but generally would recommend. And upon this most recent watch, this movie is fucking bad, and I don't recommend you watch it. And we'll get into the reasons why here shortly.
Did you taint our tier list then?
No, I just I had to come to Jesus when I was watching this, man, and holy shit. Randu, how do you do?
So this is going to be the fucking, this is going to be the execution movie, the movie where we just execute on site. Because I definitely don't like this movie. I don't know if I am that vehement about it. Maybe because I don't feel the betrayal of disliking it for the first time. Because I never liked this movie to begin with all that much. And I know people do like it. And I don't want to take that away from them. Don't get me wrong. But I'm sorry that it got taken away from you, Bob, but I'm also happy because we can commiserate now. This movie isn't very good, and I pretty much agree with everything Justin said. I would say on the recommendation front, it could have been important because it was Jamie Lee's return, but then they had to go and fucking make Resurrection, and then they had to go and just keep fucking plugging away at it, and just it suddenly becomes just a footnote in a franchise, the way that every side story of Spider-Man is a footnote unless it's really good. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like not really a recommendation at all from the Straight Chilling crew. So watch at your own
sorry,
risk.
Fans.
And now we're about to mostly wrap up this franchise, except for one outlying piece of shit. But mostly we're wrapping up this franchise.
That's right. Let's get into this movie. We're going to spoil the shit out of it, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Perfect. Well done. That's what I love to see and hear. By the
Bob,
way.
one more time. Let's hear that plot synopsis.
Here we go. Plot synopsis. On October 29th, 1998, Michael Myers burglarizes Marion Chambers' home, Loomis's colleague, as you might remember from the other movies, and she realizes the file on Laurie Strode, who was presumed dead in a car accident, is missing. Michael kills Marion, her next-door neighbor, and his friend before leaving the house. In Summer Glen, California, Laurie Strode is now the headmistress of Hillcrest Academy, a private boarding school working under the name Carrie Tate. Laurie is also in a relationship with the guidance counselor Will Brennan. A majority of the students leave to go on a trip to Yosemite, leaving only Laurie, Will, security guard Ronnie, Laurie's son, John, his girlfriend Molly, and their classmates Charlie and Sarah. Laurie reveals her true identity to Will on Halloween night, and then realizes Michael has most likely returned to kill her and her son, as her son is the same age she was when the murders happened back in 1978, which was 17 years old. Michael arrives and kills Charlie and Sarah. John and Molly are chased throughout the school grounds and are saved by Laurie and Will. Will accidentally shoots Ronnie, the security guard, while he is patrolling the school. Michael kills Will while he and Laurie are examining Ronnie's body. Laurie gets John and Molly to safety. She then realizes Michael will never leave her alone as long as she is alive. She stabs him several times, pushes him off a balcony. Ronnie apparently survived. He convinces Laurie to halt her attack. The paramedics arrive and load Michael into a coroner's van. Laurie knows that he is most certainly still alive, so she steals the van. Michael awakens and attacks Laurie. She slams on the brakes, causing him to fly through the window. Laurie runs him over and pins him between the van and a tree. Laurie then reaches out and almost touches his hand just before she decapitates him with an axe. Roll credits. Let's get into this piece of shit.
Damn, Bob. You changed your tone. Yeah, real quick.
Holy shit.
It's bad. It's a bad movie.
And it's got a bitter twinge to it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been wronged by this movie, I think.
I dig the opening scene. So,
me too. Okay, that's what I wanted to start with.
That's cool.
Yeah. That opening scene in this movie is pretty good.
It is good. I like the Halloween flavor. I like the little bit of comedy that they kind of have in here. The like goofy ass teens have like more
AGL?
personality. Yeah, like fucking Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I like that he's in there. I like the kills that come from it. The ice skate through his face or whatever. That's dope. It's got those Halloween vibes, and it brings back the nurse again. So I don't know.
That's
I like it. I like everything about it.
Story-wise, it's a little strange because Loomis, like, it's weird that they decided that Loomis survived, yet the Jamie Lloyd stuff didn't happen, but they still had to, for some reason, say, "Oh, but Loomis survived, and he was living with Marion Chambers, like as an just in I don't know what you would call that. Like
that's true.
Like
that's kind of
conspiracy. Like there's no reason to make him alive.
Yeah,
it's a strange thing. And then because the actor's dead, there's no reason to do that if you can't even bring him back.
I agree with that. I also want to add, like, during the intro credits, so there's a lot of things that are fucking terrible in this movie. The name is terrible. The title card is terrible. The voiceover of Loomis that is not Loomis.
It's
is
not
terrible.
Loomis. Why didn't they just play Loomis?
That's such a good question. I would say it's a rights issue, but then that doesn't make any fucking sense. You're making a Halloween movie. Like,
and they also show his picture.
Yeah, I know.
You can't use his voice from the original Halloween.
It doesn't make any sense to me, man. I don't know. Also, I need to say that this is the worst score in any Halloween movie ever made. Ever. It sucks.
Wow.
It is
it does suck. Certainly. I don't know if I rank it at all, but it's terrible. And like it's that intro sequence, I did want to point that out too, is incredibly hacky. And it's the first red flag in a long series of them in this movie. It's just like, it starts off really like acceptable. Like, it's like, oh yeah, okay, maybe this is going to be better than I thought. It's got strong Halloween vibes, but then I kept thinking to myself, but they're going to California any minute now. They're going to go to fucking California, and it's just going to look like goddamn California.
Why did they do that?
Because this whole movie, its existence, its writing, everything about it is entirely predicated on the movie Scream. And that shit drives me fucking nuts.
They're trying to make Scream 2 because that was a big hit. And they're like, well, we'll put them in college or I guess they're
trying to say, like, here's a rebuttal to Scream, but they're really just doing Scream,
which was riffing on Halloween, and that's like just do Halloween because that's the only reason Scream exists at all. The fact that
at least
this movie has like a little, like the kids are in their room watching TV, and there's a little clip from Scream 2 on the TV, the way that like Scream has Halloween on the TV.
Yeah, with Buffy.
I hate that.
Yeah,
it is bad.
I don't mind that on its own because, like, I like just a little reference.
Wait, but weren't they watching? Wait, in Scream 1 though, weren't they watching Halloween?
Yeah, they watched Halloween in Scream 1. Absolutely, they talked about it at length.
In H2O, it's canon that Scream exists.
Yes.
So if they then watched the Scream movie, they would then see their mother.
Let me ask you this: I guess I haven't seen Scream 2 in a while. Like, is Buffy in that? Is that actually from Scream 2?
I think
because
so.
I thought that was like a stand-in. Like, I thought that was like a reference to Scream without being called Scream. And because they called it like, instead of saying "What's your favorite scary movie?" they're like, I don't know. They said something that was just off. You know what I mean? It was like a Mad Magazine version. You know?
I don't know.
That's what I thought.
I would have to go back.
It's been too long since I've seen Scream 2, so that's on me.
I think it is, but I do know that apparently the John Ottman they hired to score this movie scored the movie, and I guess they didn't like the score enough, so they went back in and they chose like needle drops from the Scream franchise and also from Mimic and just put them in this fucking movie. And
Mimic?
I guess they had some score left over from Mimic. I don't know. Miramax.
Oh yeah, leftover score. Just heat it up.
Movies that Miramax had, and like the Weinsteins insisted upon, like, I don't know, beefing the score up, which makes it feel even more like a Scream movie than it already does, right? Yeah. And then also the Weinsteins also insisted that Creed was featured in this movie. There's a Creed song. The same Creed song plays in this movie twice, like in the actual movie and then again in the credits.
Well, yeah.
It
They're the
is
Blue
a
Oyster
mistake.
Cult of the 90s.
Oh my God. Don't say that. Don't you
Oh
ever say
my
that.
god! So
I know you
wrong.
don't mean that. Don't say that. Yeah, this movie sucks. I mean, it's like there's so many things wrong with this movie. I wanted to point out a few things. Let me look at my notes here.
Can I say something real quick while you're looking at your notes?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
One of the reasons I was excited to cover this movie is to say this one thing is fuck Josh Hartnett's hair. Jesus.
Yep. That's where I was going. That's where I was going, baby. Yep.
Jesus
I
Christ.
found a bit of trivia about that because it is
Please
distracting
inform.
as fuck.
He
right?
looks like a Mennonite or something. Somebody who doesn't have access to a barber.
Dude, and to be fair, I gave what's her name such a hard time in Rosemary's Baby, so I wanted to properly harp on the shittiness of Josh Hartnett's hair as well.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just
Apparently,
fair.
On set, in between takes, he insisted upon expressing his individuality, I guess. So, like in between takes, he would, as soon as he was done, he would go sit down and put a beanie on, and he was ready to film. He would take his beanie off and then go back out. So, like,
Well, that shows.
he's got these little like crispy bits of hair that are just sticking out, and the rest of it's just like flat to his skull because he's wearing a beanie all day. Like, why are you doing that?
If I was a director, I'd be like, fuck
Beanie is our
you,
individual,
little
dude. He's the only guy
shit.
that wears a beanie, of course.
Yeah, you
No
still
one
have to
wears
sit
beanies
through
but Josh
makeup and shit. How is it acceptable for you to just completely fuck up your hair? Oh, it looks
The hair person
terrible.
on this never got work again, and it's because Josh Hartnett's a piece of shit. That's all I can figure.
It is
Damn.
decided. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like as a character, this dude fucking sucks.
Yeah.
He is mean as fuck to his fucking traumatized mother. Jamie Lee, for what it's worth, the Laurie Strode character, I think is handled okay. Like her being an alcoholic and having some trauma. I don't like the dream sequences. I don't like the way they handle like having visions of Michael Myers. It's very hokey and bad.
Yeah.
But I like that she's like clearly traumatized. She's a closet alcoholic. She's afraid to let her kid go out, but she's trying to be a good mom. She's trying to be the hip mom too. Like I can get behind that, and I think she plays it well.
And
For
that
him
makes
to say to her,
sense,
like,
too.
yeah, like logically, there's a logical sense to that.
Sure.
So for me to sit there and watch Josh Hartnett's fucking bad haircut, sit there and be like, well, you really can't attract crazy people like Dad. And she's like, well, he's out of our lives now. And he's like, yeah, he left you, right? And I'm like, slap that bitch across his dumb fucking mouth. Fuck you, Josh Hartnett. The actor, not the character you're playing for some reason.
Well, yeah, and that is a big thing
Little
against
aggressive,
like
maybe.
the original movie, because at least like in the first movie, a lot of people, go crazy over Laurie Strode. And I think this movie is a great testament to the idea that I think that Loomis is more important to the identity of the original Halloween than maybe even Laurie was, because I think he has a bigger presence in the idea of like, Michael as an opposite to Michael than Laurie is, in my opinion. And so, but in the first movie, Laurie at least she was like a saint, she wasn't pure, she's smoking weed or whatever, but she's good with the kids. She's like doing her best to survive and doing everything. And Josh Hartnett is just like you said, how can you even relate to him? Because even if they're playing him off of he's like a shitty teen or whatever, like, okay, maybe that's realistic in some sense. It's like, but it's not like pleasurable to watch. You don't want to root for him as a character. So like, it's just a poor decision to make him so and the tension between them, it's not pleasurable to watch either. Like, who is that for? Is it for teenagers who are like, oh mom, you just don't understand? Is it for moms who are like, oh, I got shit? It's like, it's just not fun to watch to me, like just their dynamic.
It's shitty.
No, I
writing
totally agree.
Is what it is.
I honestly think like, and this is one of the corrections that I think 2018 made, even though it was like so far down the line that it kind of, I don't know, it's a little different. But They should have been a daughter. Should have been her daughter, and being overprotective of her daughter. And like, I just don't understand the decision to have fucking Josh goddamn Hartnett be the lead of this movie. You got Michelle Williams there. I don't know if she's a great actress or not. I don't really remember much about her. She seems fine in this.
I think she was in Roswell.
Yeah, so I mean, but she would have been a better choice than fucking Josh Hartnett. She there's something about like it's a mothers and daughters thing. It's about women being victimized by men, that sort of thing, by a family member.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Michael hunts his sisters. He doesn't even have a brother. Like, does it just lineage? That's it?
It's about being 17 years old, apparently, according to this dumb fucking movie. As soon as you turn 17, he's coming for your ass.
Michael's coming for your ass.
Doesn't make any sense.
The Weinstein fingerprints on this are disgusting in so many ways. Like, they're just grubby little mitts are all over this fucking thing, and it drives me nuts. He's clearly there because they needed a vehicle for Josh Hartnett. They see a future for Josh Hartnett. They need a vehicle for him. Josh Hartnett. This is fresh after Scream. They have something to play off of that's different than the last outing, which was fucking Paul Rudd and them just completely butt fucking the series in general. And like, this movie comes in and they're like, we're going to bring Laurie back. She's back. We're going to make a lot of references to the old movies. This suddenly becomes a reference horror the way that Scream was, instead of just a fucking continuation in some way. And that drives me goddamn nuts.
Dude. The way that she says "do as I say" like 2 or 3 times throughout this movie is fucking obnoxious. And like the Michael Myers like head tilt movement is done over and over again. It's like, yes, we understand that's from the original movie. The original movie showed restraint, and that's why it's fucking successful. Last one I want to mention real quick is Janet Leigh showing up in the movie.
Oh my God, I have so much to say about that.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. You please. I don't want to cut you off.
I just want to talk about how this movie was self-referential, where like Scream was self-referential, but also just like referencing the entire like slasher genre and its rules. Whereas this movie tries to be cutesy in references, Jamie Lee's family and also just the movies that came before it. But it does it way too much in a way that's not clever at all and is like just really fucking frustrating. They even
it's absolutely the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'll get back.
Dude, the Janet Leigh thing drives me nuts. I love it. I'm a Hitchcock fan. I love Psycho, and like I don't begrudge them like giving her a small part. If they had stopped it as her being just a busybody, person in the office for like one scene, would have been fine. But they fucking hammer the Psycho. She drives fucking Marion Crane's car. She wears.
Don't they play the song?
They play the song. They play the score from fucking. Like, there's no, and then she gives like motherly advice. This like person who's only established as like a nuisance comes in and gives fucking motherly advice. She
drops that everyone's entitled to one good scare line.
Yeah, she does it. And it's just like, man, you could not lay this on thicker if you tried, unless fucking they had like Norman Bates's mother in the fucking passenger seat. There's nothing they could do to make this more obvious. Anthony Perkins might as well have been in her trunk. Like, it's just so much. And the thing, it's exactly what you were saying. Like in Scream, it's not just references. They're commenting on the genre. There's no commentary here. There's just references. And that's what eventually begat the whole, like in a weird way, the whole like Scary Movie and then Epic Movie and all the other goddamn movies that everybody like learned to loathe as like quickly as they came out. It's one of the few movies I ever walked out on was Epic Movie. And it's just like, I think that's partially attributed to this attitude of like reference good, put reference in, therefore good. And like Scream didn't do that. Not in the first one anyway. I don't remember enough about the others to comment on that, but it's just, they're so clearly like, oh, the whole genre is revitalized. We've got this character at our disposal. I'm a Weinstein. I need Josh Hartnett to be a heartthrob for my sick, disgusting fantasies or whatever. And, like it just reeks of fucking studio schlock bullshit. And they pump money into it, and they pump Creed into it, and they pump LL Cool Bean into it, and they expect it to be a hit.
Dude, keep rappers out of Halloween movies. Jesus Christ. Also, I want to talk about something because it's come up in the Slack, and I know some people like this film. And one thing that was difficult for me was when I watched it. So it was just, one of the last Halloween movies I watched. One of my favorite episodes, so let's do a straight chilling, is when we covered Resurrection. Now, here's a couple problems with this. When I watched Resurrection, and they do the flashback scene, I was under the assumption, I even mentioned it in the podcast, that scene was filmed for Resurrection to show like the crisscross or whatever. It wasn't, though. So the Donkey Kong one arm like thing where he lowers himself with one fucking arm starts in this movie. That shit was legit. And I don't know how I would feel about it if it was in a vacuum, like if I hadn't seen Resurrection. But the ending of this sucks to me because of the way he's grabbing his head. I can only think of the twist of Resurrection, which I don't know if we want to spoil it or not, but
I think we kind of have to. Like, if you care about Resurrection, spoilers ahead.
Spoiler warning.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So in Resurrection, they say it is like, okay, Michael Myers switched himself with the paramedic. So, of course, the paramedic was trying to take the mask off to show Laurie that he wasn't Michael Myers. Okay, but even if it's Michael Myers, kind of like what Rob was saying before, where he's kind of showing this weakness and he's reaching out his hand to Laurie, I don't like that.
No,
I don't know.
Terrible.
I don't like him
It's
begging.
terrible.
Yeah.
Is he begging, or is he like trying to make amends? Is he just reaching out to try and grab her and she's trying to make amends? I don't see any reason for her to ever want to do that.
I agree.
He just tried to murder her son and has murdered all of her friends and her recent lover.
Yeah. So if it's in a vacuum and she cuts his head off, then I could see like the cathartic, like, yeah, Laurie did it. What a great ending to the series. But the setup for that, where he's pulling at his mask and like, why would you shoot it that way if you weren't trying to just lead yourself into Resurrection?
So they were
trying to leave it open.
They were leading themselves into Resurrection. They actually shot the opening sequence of Resurrection the day after they wrapped shooting.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, then that's a problem with the ending of this film then, because it sucks.
Yeah, it is a problem, and it does fucking suck. So Jamie Lee Curtis signed on knowing that they would shoot this movie H2O, ending it with Michael Myers being killed and there not being any sort of like cliffhanger leading you to believe that there might be another movie. But as soon as they finished that, they were like, well, we signed a contract saying that we literally cannot kill Michael Myers. Let's go ahead and start shooting the next movie. So they did. They just went right into it. And it's a problem.
That's bullshit.
Because it makes the ending fucking suck. And the beginning of the next movie somehow sucks even worse. Somehow sucks worse.
Dude, that Donkey Kong fucking lover from the ceiling.
Dude, it is hilarious.
That shit is
Purely and simply evil.
I have to complain about the mask for a second here real quick. This is
It's CGI at one point.
It is. They shot like half the movie with a mask and were like, oh wait, this kind of sucks. And they made another mask and they were like, well, that kind of sucks too. So then they like CGI'd over the top and they're like, well, let's go back to the other mask. So it's just this hodgepodge fucking bullshit of like 3 or 4 different masks. One doesn't even really exist. And they're all like almost screamified in a way that they're like pure white and like sort of elongated with like big black eye sockets. But most of the time, well, maybe like half the time, you just see Michael Myers' fucking pupils. You see his eyeballs.
Peepers.
You don't. You're blackest
and
eyes.
He looks
You're
like
not
a young
to see his
man.
eyes. It's like rule 1, you don't see motherfuckers' eyes. They fucking do a kill where you see the motherfucker's reflection in Michael Myers' eyeball.
I hated that so much.
It is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Why would you do that? You don't see his eyes. You don't see somebody die in his eyes. Like, what? Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Michael Williams. I'm looking at you, motherfucker. I'm fucking looking.
Yeah, that was...
No, sorry, Kevin Williams. Kevin Williams, not Michael Williams. I got the name wrong.
hit the right person, you're telling him to fucking die or
I'm
whatever.
getting worked up.
Also, I found it really annoying. The car that he gets, like, cause he,
dude,
the Jeepers
Model T or whatever.
Dude, I kind of like the scene, you know, the bathroom scene. It has some tension of the mom and the little girl, but why is that mom driving that car?
And
I don't know, man.
What is that car?
And also, why doesn't he kill anybody? He just like steals their car. Like, why set up that
he's
scene
a
at
purse
all?
snatcher.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel
He's
like they make that right.
In this movie.
They make that right in 2018 with like the bathroom
I agree.
sequence. They make good on that.
That's a much better bathroom sequence, certainly. And I don't know. Go ahead,
Cool
Juice.
J got shot in the fucking head, and he's alive.
Oh, Cool Bean and his whole character just sucks. He's just a fucking live. I respect his pursuit to be a slash fiction artist or whatever writer on fucking slashfic.net. But fuck that, man. It's not, it means nothing. It means fucking nothing. He gets capped early. He then somehow comes back and becomes pivotal to the end of the movie. It's just fucking just pure hack writing. It's very much, they just needed a Dewey character. They needed a David Arquette type person that's comic relief, supposedly there to help, but is incapable of doing it to start and then comes through in the clutch. They're just mimicking the movie that is commenting on the genre that it spawned. And it's, I don't know, man. It's just hard to watch. It's hard to watch that shit happen.
Yeah, it's rough. Why would Ronnie, the security guard, go so far out of his way to keep Laurie Strode from killing this dude in a mask who's got a knife? Like, why would he
shot him?
I don't understand that.
Shot that man. Or I didn't shoot him, actually. I'm sorry. I got confused for a second. Like, yeah, no, like, but got him shot. Like, the whole thing is just bad. And the whole, like, it feels very much like all of the, like, porno lines or whatever are there for comic relief. They strike me the same way the Bon Me strikes you, Justin. It's just hacky joke writing, just trying to bring levity in that has nothing to do with fucking anything. And, you know, and that movie, at least it's like, to me, it strikes as like, okay, this might be a conversation somebody has, but who the fuck is doing this? Who the fuck is reading porn that you wrote to your girlfriend who is making fun of you the whole time?
What?
And,
yeah.
like,
and he doesn't serve any other purpose.
No.
That character doesn't do anything.
And Josh Hartnett almost gets him fired. So even if you do care about him, there's just one more reason to hate Josh Hartnett.
Well, he lets people out that he's not supposed to let out. And then as soon as a mysterious truck arrives that's unresponsive, he immediately opens the gate and is like, "What's up, bro? Murder, murder, murder." His lines are funny as fuck. And honestly, that's probably like the best part of the movie because the rest of it sucks.
I did not find that.
Well, Rob's an easy mark for,
I'm very
for
salty.
He does like the Bon Me scene, so
he likes bondage scenes too, I think.
Bondage me scenes.
Bondage me scenes.
Bondage me, please.
That's a new kink. Before you ask that question, no, there are not any.
There was one scene, wasn't that where the girl got the busted leg, where the kind of the dumbbell thing, which I hated. I hated that like little thing, but
that seemed like a fucking Final Destination kill.
Yeah, she got her leg busted, and then later he kind of strings her up. But yeah, also, oh my God, we get that scene where that bitch drops the keys. Oh, there's like no real tension in this movie.
No.
Oh, unlock the door. Oh shit, you dropped the keys over there with Michael Myers. It's like, what the fuck? Oh my God.
You remember when that motherfucker goes to get like a corkscrew and he drops it into the drain and he's like, well,
for no reason.
For no reason at all. I don't know. He reaches down in there and just like turns on the garbage disposal. Like, why would you turn on the garbage disposal if you dropped a corkscrew in there? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do it? Also, just to go back to the LL, I'm reading my notes here, and I had forgotten this part of it. But like when Michael Myers is led in through the gate by LL Cool Bean comes out and he looks around, he looks at the car or whatever, and he's looking around in there. And Michael Myers has an opportunity to murder him, and instead sneaks by like a fucking Scooby-Doo character. What the fuck? I get not wanting to kill a child on screen or her mom. But LL Cool Bean's there to be killed, man.
Yeah, that's the thing about both those movies is LL Cool J and fucking Busta Rhymes both survived. That must have been in their fucking contracts.
Absolutely, dude. But Busta Rhymes is definitely a version of. Are you guys familiar with the term Mary Sue?
Yeah.
in movies. It's like a trope.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
No.
a self-insert character. Like it's usually I'm associated with like a perfect goody two shoes type character that, but really the idea is that it's a character that a person wants to see themselves as a self-insert, as the idealized version of themselves. Busta
Gotcha.
Rhymes is that character. I get to fucking kung fu fight Michael Myers in this movie, or I am not in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
That's
they
what
like
happened.
can't
And
fail. They like don't lose no matter
Yeah.
what like circumstances
Yeah,
they're against.
Oh, and when I say a cool line, I'll come up with it on the spot, of course, because I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that fucking trend. Like, yeah, because LL Cool J, he like doesn't do anything and he doesn't die either. Why? Why is he in this movie?
He's no, I don't know. The only cool kill in this movie is off screen, and it's the skate to the face. That's
Yeah,
it. And
the
it happens
skate to the
first
face,
thing.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we
I
don't
don't know,
even
man.
see it. There's like we see Marion get her throat cut in the opening sequence, and then we don't see another on-screen kill for an hour. We're just like hanging out.
Oh my lord,
at
in
this fucking
California.
school.
Hanging out.
Yeah,
hanging out.
Also, I
with my family.
I do not like I like the most positive thing I could say about this is Laurie's kind of condition does make sense, you know, for where she would be in life.
I totally.
But I do not like the relationship that she has with that
Dude,
fucking guy.
That's
I
me neither,
agree.
man. That's the most Miramax. That's the most Weinstein part of this movie. Having a
That
bunch
shit
of
is-
drinks with your subordinate who you're fucking on the clock.
Yeah.
That's a fucking Weinstein move, bro.
Dude, good call. Yeah.
You want to listen to Creed, little lady?
And then, like, too, when she's telling him she all of a sudden decides to bust out and talk serious. But his like reaction at first is like so silly. Like he's not taking it seriously, and it takes a while for him.
Yeah.
It's just bad. I don't like I don't like that character. I don't know. I just don't
stand
like
him.
that whole situation. Yeah.
After she's like, yeah, my brother is a psychopath and murdered my sister when she was only 17 years old. His response is literally, that's sucky.
Yeah, that's what I knew. He said something fucking stupid.
Who says that? Wow.
This
Fucking-
movie.
That's some good shit.
Fucking A. That's
I
some
love
great
that
writing.
I love that we get to fucking curb stomp a movie tonight. That made me happy. God.
Yeah, we swung on the pendulum on this one.
Yeah.
Dude,
From the
I'm
greats
so glad
to
you
the
guys have joined
lows.
me on this.
It's bad.
Yeah, we really did. We went like Halloween 2 really was very center in comparison to the other two extremes we got.
It is bad. Do you guys, you ready to wrap this one up, or you got anything else major you want to talk about real quick?
Anything else I'll
do
bring
it.
up on the thing.
All right. Out of 5, let's go ahead and rate Halloween H2O. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel out of 5?
Yeah, this movie, I was like kind of going into it and hoping that there would be some positives for it because it was kind of a more modern. Yeah, I know we got the Aunt Meng not too many years before this, but I was just hoping that it would kind of be updated a little bit. I was so disappointed. The only real positive about this movie for me was the opening scene. And by opening, I mean where it was actually Halloween and we got some comedy that landed for me and a cool kill with the scale. Like I wish they would have kept that tone where shit was like going over the top and stuff. Like, and that type of comedy, I would have been fine keeping like Joseph Gordon-Levitt in. Put it somewhere where it fucking looks like autumn and Halloween, you dumb fucks. Dude, the opening credits are garbage. And then like going to California, such a poor choice. It makes sense where they would take Laurie, but it's not, like I said, pleasurable to watch. Like it's not, at least with Terminator, Laurie, I get, some kind of thrill from it, but just watching this poor woman like drink herself to death and fight with her teenage son and date this like shitty guy at work is miserable. It's not like there's nothing pleasurable about watching that. Fucking Josh Hartnett's hair looks so fucking stupid. And the teens in this movie are just not very appealing. They're pieces of shit. They're like Michael Myers. The lighting I was talking about, like in the first movie. Him just strolling around during the daytime in California looks terrible. The mask, the CGI mask, man, like LL Cool J, that wacky ass car. Like, this movie is bad. The ending too, and tying it to Resurrection, it's also bad. The movie 1.5.
Boy,
yeah,
this movie could have really used some yabos for you, huh?
Yeah. I wish there were some yabos in this one. Booby, out of 5. Where are you going to take this one?
Oh, boy. So this, I do want to mention real quick, this movie was directed by Steve Miner, which I feel like was a great call because he directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and Part 3 and House and Warlock. And then the year after this, he directed Lake Placid. So, like, what a fucking solid choice to direct a Halloween sequel, right? He fucking shit the bed real hard, though. I feel like the directing, the acting, the score, the cinematography, the costume design, everything is pretty fucking bad about this movie. Like, I have a really hard time coming up with something that I really like about it. Like, it's just shitty. I don't like, it's like The Mask is almost a parody of the original Mask. And the way that you see it so frequently in broad daylight, like being reflected in like windows and shit when Laurie's just like pondering about life. It happens like a half a dozen times. And like when they first actually come face to face looking through like the little window in the door, it's like comical to me. There is like no tension whatsoever in this entire movie. It's a solid 1 star for me. It's bad. Randu, how do you do?
How do you do? I'm just gonna like start by going down a few of the points that are gonna be retreads, just because I think it'll be more efficient. The JGL scene with the nurse is actually pretty good and Halloweeny, but they then moved to California, and that's where we spend all of our time, in fucking California. Which, in fairness, the first movie was filmed largely in California, but they talk about Halloween. They can't show trick-or-treaters. They do a lot more fucking legwork to make that work, in my opinion. The credit sequence is hacky. Josh Hartnett looks awful with that hair and is being straight up dick to his mom about her traumatic murder. Where did Michael Myers get his goddamn suit? They don't even fucking cover that.
Where he's been for 20 years.
Yeah. Nope. No answers for that. Nothing.
Hanging out by the river, probably.
He's waiting for 17th birthday. Waiting for the 17th birthday for some reason.
As soon as he turns 17, I'm going to fuck him up.
That's the one. Yep. 17th birthday on Halloween. That's when it's a rite of passage for the Strode family. You just gotta, it's like Ready or Not, but with fucking shitty ass mask Michael Myers. I don't know, man. The mask sucks. This feels like very Miramax in every way. There's Creed in this movie, like Rob said. Janet Leigh is like, goes from a welcome addition to a fucking mark on this movie so quickly. And then like probably the most pervasive thing is that this movie has way more in common with Scream than with fucking Halloween, in my opinion, in terms of tone and everything else about the craft of the movie. This movie at one point turns into a goddamn John Woo movie with fucking like billowy curtains flying down a massive hallway, and then LL Cool Bean gets shot in the dome and then fucking walks away from it. It drives me goddamn nuts. The Scream thing in particular is my number one complaint. The only positives that I have really for this movie for me are that I can understand the like where Laurie's coming from at this stage in life, like Justin said. Let's see. I can understand why they pulled in this direction so hard. Even though I think it's a huge fucking mistake, obviously. And this movie came on the heels of another one of the worst Halloween movies. There's just a string of 3 of them back to back, 4 of them really. They try and humanize Michael Myers at the end of this movie just so they can have a fucking sequel, which is the same goddamn mistake they made in Halloween 5 that they had to fucking course correct then, and they fucked that up. It's just continual fuck ups with this franchise to the point where my fanboy is towards this franchise was really put to the test by just watching the goddamn movies again. It's hard, man. Like it's tough to sit there and watch these movies, especially like ones like this that I never liked that much, and just really come to grips with how far they fucked it up, how far they done fell. And, you know, I don't know. I have nothing else to say. It's a 1-star movie, man. It just sucks. I have nothing. I hate taking that away from people who really like this movie or have soft eyes for it. I just don't. This movie is hard. It's hard to watch. It's hard to fucking understand why they do what they do so many times. And it just seems so much like they needed something to compete with Scream, and they fucking got it. Kinda.
With Randy's 1 star, that's going to put our aggregate at a 1.2. Let's jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Halloween H2O.
Certified.
All right. Y'all know how it goes. Let's start with Juice this time. There are 61 reviews from the critics. What do the critics say, Soju?
Oh, this has got to be low. Dude, with Halloween 2 being 31, I can't give that. I will give this one a little bit higher just maybe because it's modern, but I'm going to say like 35.
35. All right. The very little higher.
Yeah, just a scotch.
Bob, where are you at? Or where are they at?
Give me 30. Just give me a 30.
30. All right. Soldier's going to take it with the over. It is 52%.
Oh, no.
I was thinking about this.
No.
I was thinking about this, and the only conclusion I can come to is that fucking this came on the heels of the Paul Rudd movie and years of and Halloween 5 before that. And it's like, well, shit, at least this feels modern. It's like the only thing I can think of with critics is them being like soft on it because of the failures of previous entries. But even that doesn't make sense to me because I hate this movie more than 5. I might hate it more than 6 too. So yeah, there you go.
I'd rather watch 6.
Right.
Yeah, I would rather watch 6.
Me too.
Paul Rudd's more enjoyable than
Weird.
Cool Bean any day of the week, in my opinion. All right, Bob, you're going to start us off with the audience score. Over 100,000 audience scores for this.
Wow.
So where are you at with it?
I feel like fans are going to be a little bit lower than the critics. I'll take a 45, please.
45. All right, Soju, you?
I'll split right down the middle and say 50.
50. Well, wise decision. 49%. 49.
Oh, man, I almost swept the board. I think Bob got one hell ski.
I'd be strong.
That would have been the ultimate hell yeet sweep. But I did get 2 hell yeet sweeps tonight.
Congrats, man. You know,
Well,
around
thank
here,
you.
that means big money.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Around here, that means big money.
Yeah, so there you go. Let's read the critics' consensus. Halloween H2O is the best of many sequels, yet still pales in comparison to the original Halloween.
It's not.
That's a consensus that came before 2018, I'm guessing.
Oh my God.
And also it was wrong even then.
Yeah. Ooh, this is low on the list.
God, give me Halloween 4 is so much fucking better than this movie. It's
Halloween 4 is
crazy.
so much fun. 2
so
and
much
4.
better.
And
Dude, and 2 is better. Yeah,
and
even all the shit I gave it.
And 6.
Yeah, and 3.
well,
Yeah.
ooh,
Well,
5
at least 5 and 6 are at least like I was going to mention this too. Michael Myers cries in Halloween 5. In this movie, he reaches out lovingly towards his sister, or there's a loving moment. Like they made the same goddamn mistake 2 times in 2 different fucking series.
And
like,
in
or
6, he's like a robot, kind of.
Yeah,
I mean,
in 6, he's a
essentially.
full-on Frankenstein, and he's raping his own niece and shit.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes are repeatedly made, apparently.
This franchise has some bumpy roads.
Let's read a negative review and hope that they are as down on it as we are. Halloween H2O is the worst film in the series, and for one reason, it's distracting plot holes. No, I disagree with that. Halloween H2O, one of its things that we didn't even mention is the goddamn worst title in the series.
Yeah.
This movie has nothing to do with water, I want to point out. Not a goddamn thing. There's no water.
Well, 20 years. H2,
Halloween
I mean,
20.
H20.
Oh, who could resist making a connecting to a dot that doesn't fucking matter?
I mean, it kind of does matter because the kid turned 17.
What?
H17.
H17? What are you talking about?
It doesn't matter.
Trying to put a dime in me? What are you doing?
It doesn't matter. Nobody's putting anything in you, Randy. I promise you that.
Well, that's a damn shame.
Let's go.
It also isn't penetrating you. That's a bummer.
That's a bummer.
That's a bummer.
Let's tackle some trivia real quick.
It's totally time for trivia.
Alrighty then, we got some H2O trivia. Here we go. The screenplay was based on a story by Kevin Williamson, with the original working title for the film being Halloween 7: The Revenge of Laurie Strode. In Williamson's original treatment, there are scenes in which a Hillcrest student does a report on Michael Myers' killing spree, mentioning the death of Jamie, complete with flashbacks to 4, 5, and 6. Carrie or Laurie responds to hearing the student's report on the death of her daughter by running into the restroom and throwing up. So I guess originally they were going to tie this in.
You know,
Excuse me, 4, 5, and 6.
That's interesting because, like, part of me is like, well, I mean, at least that gives Loomis a reason for existing. At least there's, like, as much as the Cult of Florin thing rightfully should have been abandoned, and it was a good decision on that front. But at the same time, I'm like, that's a tough trigger to pull because any existing fans you have might actually give a shit about that. So I don't know. Part of me is kind of reticent to give them a lot of credit for that, especially because they then whiffed it so much worse. And 2018 just ignores everything else. So I guess I think they ignored it in the right way, maybe.
Yeah. Carpenter agreed to direct the movie, but his starting fee as director was $10 million. And he also demanded a 3-picture deal with Dimension Films, which obviously the Weinsteins said, nah, dog, we're not doing that. Screenwriter, producer Kevin Williamson was involved in various areas of production, although not directly credited. He provided rewrites in character dialogue and helped make alterations and sketches of the script. He also came up with the paramedic storyline that explained how Michael survived the ending, which was partially
clever
filmed,
boy.
which was partially filmed the day after principal photography ended and later utilized in the film's sequel. The original music score is composed by John Ottman. Some of the music from Scream was added to later sequences during post-production. Dimension Films chief Bob Weinstein demanded musical changes occur, and including the inclusion of "What's This Life For" by the music group Creed. Gratuitous Creed in this fucking movie. What else we got? I think I kind of... Oh, yeah, this is the last thing I'll say. There's a statue of Butterball, the Cenobite from Hellraiser, which can be seen on Jimmy's front porch at the very beginning sequence of the movie when Marion knocks on his door, which is kind of a strange, random inclusion. But
Yeah, what the fuck?
kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm sorry. I will say one more thing.
I don't understand.
Jamie Lee Curtis said that they had asked Mike Myers, the actor, to do a cameo in this movie, just walking down the street past Laurie, in which she would do a double take, but the actor sternly declined, which would make this movie
That's kind of
worse.
Funny. Yeah,
I
don't know.
I can
I think
understand
it would make
Mike
it
not wanting
better.
to do that, but I think it would make this movie better. Like, if you're gonna be dumb reference humor, at least that's kind of a big get.
No.
Yeah, I at
The
least
Janet Leigh
liked
thing was
the
kind of a
humor.
big get. But they would definitely lay it on way thicker than that. They definitely.
Yeah, I wish they would have stuck with that humor we got in the first sequence. Then at least it would have been fun, like Resurrection, maybe.
Maybe.
Oof, man.
Or at least Halloweeny.
I'm glad he said no. Anyway, that's all we got for trivia for H2O. Let's go ahead and jump to our final segment. We're talking Cooter of the Week for all 3 movies. Here we go.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the Week.
Juice, what's a Cooter and why are we hunting him?
For some reason, I'm sideways now. Whatever. I'm going to roll with it. Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. We want cooter with the most points. The 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, we're considering across 3 films. Does anybody have a strong cooter candidate they would like to nominate?
I think of 2 people. Rob, why don't you start us off? I think you got somebody, right?
I would suggest Michael Myers, honestly, as being a cooter.
I didn't think about that.
All right, give us your reasons, Bob.
I would definitely say sexual deviance is part of them. So like he never actually like has sex with anybody. I don't really think that's necessarily of interest to him, but he definitely stalks several women when they are having sexual intercourse or just getting naked. He sort of like plays around with them, especially in part 2 where he like rests his hand on the nurse's shoulder and she like sucks on his finger and stuff. So that's like definitely a part of whatever it is that he's interested in is like sex and murder. It's sort of baked into these movies for sure.
That's not a bad call. I mean, I don't know. I was going to go with like tertiary characters. I didn't think about Michael, honestly, because he's such like a, I don't know.
You could give him a tire as well. I mean, he's always wearing the jumpsuit and the fucked up mask.
He has to, apparently. And
just because of that fucked up mask. I mean, but that's not his fault.
He goes out of his way. I'd blame it.
Well, no, he gets his own fucking masks. Like,
well, I'm talking about like how shitty the masks get.
Well, yeah, like on a craft level, that's a different thing.
Yeah,
but I was gonna mention fucking Bud the Chud in part 2, and I was gonna mention, and I don't even know this fucker's name. But just because he's basically written to be a cooter, is Josh Hartnett's friend, the male friend, whoever he is, who's frequently just like, boy, you're just full of spit and vinegar. You just want to fuck everything, don't you? Like just constantly telling the camera that this is the horny character.
Yeah, dude, Bud the Chud's a good call, though.
I think he could qualify. I mean, okay.
How? Run him down. What's he got?
Okay.
He's got smug arrogance out the wazoo.
All right.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. Sexual arrogance as well. I'm sorry, sexual deviance, sexual arrogance. I think we all have that.
Part of his like arrogance is, I don't know, the way he kind of treats the younger guys, like, oh, you know, I need to show you the ropes, and like hiding in the bed and jumping out and scaring the woman while she's at her fucking job, and like
after a murder. After a murder, like,
and also, she's trying to do her job, and he's like being such a bitch, a little pathetic about like, oh, babe, come down to the spa, babe, ooh.
Dude. And that's another thing too. Is like, I don't know. I'm all for hot tubs, but that is not a fucking hot tub. That is a medicinal piece of equipment, motherfuckers. You're gonna jizz in this piece of equipment that like sick people go in for therapy.
Yeah, that's
fuck you.
Don't jizz on the equipment. Come on.
You don't jizz on the equipment. Have some goddamn couth and etiquette.
So I don't know. I think he at least hits enough to be considered cooter. I don't know if he's cooter.
Arrogance.
Dude, Josh Hartnett. Oh my God. Just look at the tire for that piece of shit haircut he's got.
Hair. Also the arrogance. Although he's kind of a pathetic little shit. Like, I don't know why.
He does nothing for himself,
feels
really.
Right.
Yeah, he's such a cooter. I want to give it to him just because I hate him so much.
Spite cooter.
Yeah, he's got smug arrogance. I would say he's manipulative. He lies about going on the trip.
He's
but kind of in like a normal teenage way.
Yeah, but still manipulative. He also manipulates like the security guard.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that for sure.
Yeah,
I'd say he's pathetic in the way that he treats his mother, even though like she's definitely like pushing some of her traumas onto him. Like he treats her like complete shit.
Dude.
Yeah.
How are you gonna fucking like make a jab at your mom for losing a husband that they outright state was abusive to her? Like, and also on Halloween, a day that she survived a multiple murder and all her friends died. Eat my shit, you little ass stain.
Damn.
Damn.
Well, that's a
so we got some cooter candidates. Yeah.
3 right there.
I want to give it to Josh now.
I want to give it to Josh Hartnett or like Bud the Cho would be my
being
runner
a little
up.
bit sexual deviant, but nothing bad.
Yeah. Josh Fartnett. We're giving it to him.
Wow. Nailed it, Bob.
Whoa, man. That's too hot for TV right there. Damn.
Nailed it.
We caught him.
It's like him and Bud the Chud in the top spots for me. Michael Myers is a little too I don't know. Like
I don't want Michael Myers to be a cooter.
He's like an unstoppable force. He's not really.
He's either
like
an unstoppable force. He's not really like a person. And in the first one where he is kind of a person, he's like a psychotic person. Like he's just kind of like insane. It's kind of tough to say. It's
hard to give cooter tag to someone who never even speaks.
It is. Yeah, he doesn't
have like a
cooter.
He doesn't have a cooter swag. Yeah,
he doesn't. He does have a personality.
I would like to amend that statement in saying that I can't remember the actor's name, but the dude who plays Michael Myers in Halloween H2O walks with a swag that is distracting and fucking stupid. It drives me nuts.
I have to check into that.
It drives me crazy the amount of swingage his arms do. Like it, I can't stand that shit.
Well. Vince McMahon style.
I think.
Michael Myers just showed up.
Dude, somebody make that meme. Take the Vince McMahon and put the Michael Myers mask
with the crazy arm swing.
With the arm swing. Dude, somebody get on that.
Arm swing is one of my favorite things.
That would be great. That would be great. I'm going Josh Fartnet. That's my vote. What do you guys?
All right.
It's
an easy dunk. Let's go.
Right, let's do it. We dunked on him. We dunked on Joshy, our boy Joshy. We got him locked up.
I wonder if he's got the same, because we talked about old Skeet being a cooter from the 90s. I wonder how Nicole feels about old Josh Hartnett. She's got a sweet thing for cooter Skeet. I wonder how she feels about.
I'm sorry. You said cooter Skeet, and my mind went to completely different places than Ulrich.
My BC, Skeet Ulrich. My bad.
Do you have a fart throb?
God
Should
damn.
we ask?
Josh Hartnett.
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
That's you, baby. You're a lint liquor.
We got him. That's going to do it for us this week here on Straight Chilling. We got a couple voicemails. We're going to hold those for next week, though. Don't worry about it. You'll hear your sweet, succulent voices soon enough. Next week, we're going to be back with a brand new episode. As always, we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest, which is Halloween Kills. We're keeping this Halloween train rolling, baby. Slam your eyes into Halloween Kills. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. On Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Purely and simply evil.